That's it, we're going
mysteries to
live now.
cover at the end. All right. Shh.
Do,
Shh.
do, do.
Shh.
Ooh.
Didn't we do? There's the titles. I've started
Keep the fucking noise down.
You opened it. We paid.
Very spooky.
Good evening and welcome to another 14 Words.
Ooh.
Spooky.
Very.
Hello, you
Spooky.
can't.
Luke, I am your father.
Oh, is it Luke? Luke, oh fuck. What's the
Oh, what, the new
yeah.
one?
Yeah,
Luke, I am your stepfather.
Luke, you're my father.
Well, you've got
If
the
you-
gay
if you're
robots.
from a different reality.
That's
The
it.
gay robots. R2D2, where are you?
That's it.
You know Anthony
Oh, I-
Daniels is a puffer, don't you?
Who's he?
C3PO.
3PO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone knows that.
What C3PO is, isn't
You
he?
didn't know who he
Really?
was. You didn't even know who he was. How could you possibly have known he was a puffer?
Because I know C3PO is a gay robot. Just listen to him and the mannerisms. Of course, he's gay. He's like that guy in Are You Being Served? In fact, I thought that was
Kenneth
the guy.
Williams.
Yeah, I thought Kenneth Williams was C3PO.
It's not Kenneth Williams. It's what's his name?
No, he's the other one.
John Humphreys.
John
That's
Humphries.
it.
That's
John yeah, I thought John Humphreys was C3PO.
Oh, John Inman, Mr. Humphreys. John Inman is the actor, isn't it? And he's Mr.
Oh,
John
John
Inman.
Inman. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Man by Name and Nature.
Yeah.
So it's been brought to my attention today again with the Americans trying to convince us like their months, days, years system is logical. It was the Skull and Bones holiday a few days ago because it was the third month of the 22nd day, year of our Lord 2022, which is now known as Christian era or CE.
Yeah, Christian era.
So,
I thought it's Common Era.
Christian era.
well, yeah, the Christian era, and that's why
Yeah.
DC is
Yeah, it's
before
Christian era and before Christian era.
The common part of common era
Yeah.
refers to the
Yeah,
common event. What
There's
happened?
there's some people who are from the Mandela Effect universe think it stands for Common Era, but it actually stands for Christian era.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Or atheists who
And they
prefer
think that
it.
they think that Sherlock Holmes said elementary, my dear Watson. But he never did. He never said that.
Don't you just love the logic of atheists? It's you know what we'll still start from Christ's birth, but we'll just call it Common Era instead.
It's just a pain in the arse otherwise,
What happened that year? What happened that year when we started
Well, you
Common
know,
Era? What happened in that year?
The common event. What happened? What made the era?
Yeah.
It's just it's just common. It's commonly known as the Christian era. That's why it's common era.
Yeah.
It's just a shorthand way of saying the common era, commonly known as the
As
Christian
we all commonly
era.
know, that's when Jesus was born.
And it's also that thing you do if you're a freeman on the land, not to be confused with my good friend Freeman on the sand,
Yeah.
where you go and you say, if your name's John Smith, you say, I am John, commonly known as John of the family Smith.
Mm. And then you
It's-
can't
it's
get
a bit of a
arrested
mouth-
then.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful.
The
But
police then can't smash your car window and drag you out like they did in that America video.
what you got to do then when they say you're under arrest is you say I don't stand under.
Yeah.
When they say, do you understand what I've said to you? You
When
say,
there's
"Don't
four of them
stand-"
beating you to the floor with their truncheons, you go, I don't stand under. I still don't stand under.
I'm merely travelling on the land, and I don't need a license because that's like a birth certificate and things. But anyway, 322222 is the Skull and Bones holiday. So there you go.
Why is that?
Oh, because Skull and Bones, their number's 322.
Why?
I don't know why. Alex Jones told me that. But that's their number.
But he won't tell
know
you
that-
why. Is he part of the conspiracy?
That's the thing. I mean, why is it that Skull and Bones have the number 322 as their call sign?
Yeah.
Probably true if Alex Jones says it is, because
Yeah.
there's a surprising amount of things he said that have come true.
Alex Jones would not tell a lie. I know this for a fact.
I know if I was to have a tip jar with number of times Alex Jones has been right in it, I would have enough for a pub dinner.
A pub dinner.
Yep.
How much would
I'd
you be putting in on each time? Each time he was right.
10p. I'd be going to.
Whoa, you're going all out there, Hobbit.
Yeah, Hungry Horse or Wetherspoons.
You calm down there, mate, with that kind of gambling.
But I tell you what, that would be a sound investment. The return on investment, like every time Alex Jones has been right, put 10p in the jar.
Yeah.
You'd be having steak by.
Yeah,
the
but you have
end
to
of the
take
decade.
10p out for every time he's wrong.
You'd still be eating a pub dinner at Hungry Horse or Harvester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the time he said it's the Bilderbergs.
Oh yeah. Whatever happened to the Bilderbergs? All you hear these days is
What happened to George
WEF,
Soros? Why don't we talk about George Soros anymore?
Because
Has he been vanquished?
Because it's not the Ukraine, it's now Ukraine, and it's Kyiv, as in like Kyiv comes from Kyiv.
Quiv.
Kwivi. Is this the new Kofefi?
Jose, the curse of Cuervo. Don't you remember?
It was the haircut that Elvis had, wasn't it? Quiv.
Speaking of haircuts and Hungry Horse, I used to go to a Hungry Horse in Farnborough, and they had the mullet family. The man, his wife, and his daughter all had mullets.
The daughter had a mullet.
They live in a caravan.
Probably.
What was that? Do you remember that Aussie cricketer who used to say looked like a Jippo?
Shane Warne.
Where's your caravan? No, he looked like a little hobbit, didn't he? He was about 3'2", weren't he? I've got to say, Shane Warne's a cheating bastard, and he always has been.
Anymore, he isn't.
He won't be cheating no more, will he?
He didn't cheat death, did he?
Soros is a good boy, according to some prominent fact checkers. Bilderbergs now own Build-A-Bear. You know, all the information coming in from the chat. All the spot-on, up-to-date information coming from the chat there.
Valid sources.
Yeah, sources say. That's what you say when you're making something up, innit? You say sources say. So right, are we going to get started?
Yeah, all right then. All right then. Should we kick off with the tonight's hot topic?
Oh, wrong one. Why is it?
Yorkshire Ripper, the secret murders. So let's do this then. Let's just do a bit of.
I'm blowing the up.
You're supposed to save that one until last. That's the best one. So anyway,
You're on the last one.
Spoilers.
It's all part of it messing up the pictures, isn't it?
I was going to say spoilers, but Jimmy Savile happened to know him. But
yeah.
We'll get to
get
it later.
Get on to that. Let's just a bit of background first, is it? So, Peter Sutcliffe was born in Bingley, Yorkshire, on the 2nd of June, 1946, and would grow up to become the Yorkshire Ripper, convicted of brutally murdering 13 women and attempting to murder 7 others between 1975
But he was always a good boy with dear old son.
So, Sutcliffe's victims were usually prostitutes, and his usual method of attack would involve hitting them over the head with a hammer. Then he would mutilate the body using a knife. Sometimes he strangled his victims using a rope, and would also use a sharpened screwdriver as a stabbing implement.
Hold on, we've got some more facts from the chat. The number 322 appears in Skull and Bones insignia, and is widely reported to be significant as the year of Greek orator Demosthenes' death.
And also, if you dial 0800 322, you can have some hot chat with the boy next door.
Sharpened screwdriver, Phillips Torx or flat?
As crosshead. So he was one of was
Yeah,
one.
that's not.
You got the bit where when he kills him, he says, "Stop, hammer time."
It's a
Anyway.
Hobbit. You're an HGV driver. In the HGV driving manuals, does it state ball peen?
Yeah, actually.
Ball peen or claw hammer. What does it state in the driving in the HGV regulations?
Well, in addition to that, you can also use a flat panel beater's hammer, because the thing is, it's like you could say, well, it's for beating out dents in the bodywork, but also it's for beating out dents in the prostitute's skull.
Yeah.
And also, does it tell you the best way to transport a body? Rolled up carpet, perhaps, something like that.
The reason you got those underrun skirt protection things is you can also truss bodies up there as well.
Yeah, you can stash a whore there. Anyway, all right, we'll just go back to the topic. So anyway, Sutcliffe's infamy knows no bounds, and his crimes are well documented in numerous books, documentaries, TV and cinema dramatizations, podcasts, and we've even done a Fortean Words podcast about him, haven't we? Some time ago. It was about 2 years ago, wasn't it?
I think that's.
I wasn't. No, that was before
Zero.
I came on the
Zero. Yes, that was with Zero.
Yeah.
That one was.
So we've covered it before. So we're not going to look at the usual murders tonight. Though he was convicted of 13 murders and 7 attempted murders, this is unlikely to be the sum total of his offences, and there must be other attacks that he carried out that he wasn't convicted of. In 1996, Keith Halliwell, Chief Constable of West Yorkshire Police, examined 60 possible murders and attacks that were unsolved and could have been Ripper attacks. He culled this down to 20, which he believes may be the responsibility
to be fair, they really
of
didn't want to catch
Sutcliffe.
him in the first place, did they? So they're not really going to do a good job of putting him away.
In 2005, the Yorkshire Evening Post reported that after Peter Sutcliffe's arrest, a list of 47 crimes that he could have been responsible for was drawn up by detectives, and the Daily Mail investigation counted 35 possible attacks. So tonight, we're going to look at attacks and murders which remained unsolved, but circumstantial evidence makes it possible that they could have been carried out by Peter Sutcliffe, and no doubt some of them definitely were. So yeah. So we're not going to cover old ground. We're going to look at these new attacks.
Is the first slide? Is that Simon Cowell's granddad?
I'll come on to that. Shortly.
He's got those trousers way up there, and surprised he hadn't split himself in twain.
Yeah, we're laughing now, but you'll be you'll soon feel ashamed of what you're saying. But anyway, okay. So
soon eat your words.
Yeah,
exactly. You'll need to take a good look at yourself after those remarks. Yeah. Anyway, Sutcliffe left school at 15 and had a series of menial jobs, including 2 stints as a gravedigger in the 1960s. And it was in his early 20s that he started to have a fascination with prostitutes, hanging around the red light districts of Bradford and no doubt using the services on offer. His first documented assault was of a female prostitute, was in September 1969. He was out in the red light district with his friend Trevor Birdsall and Trevor's van. Peter thought that he saw a prostitute who had tricked him out of some money, so he left the van and went after her. He followed her into a garage, then hit her over the head with a stone in a sock, sort of using it in a kosh
The old
type
scum
way.
method. The old scum method then, was it? Oi,
Snooker ball in a sock.
Did he
that
say,
kind
"Oh,
of thing.
jungle bunny, where's your tool"? Did
Yeah.
he say that?
Take this, you slag. Anyway. The woman noted Birdsall's vehicle registration, so she reported the assault to the police. So the police did visit Sutcliffe's home about the assault, but the woman did not want anything more to do with the incident, so charges were not pressed.
So they probably went, "Did you do this?" No.
No.
Okay, then that'll do. So.
Well, because she was a prostitute, she was breaking the law herself, so obviously they're a bit reluctant to contact the police if there is a crime. Interesting fact, though, Trevor Birdsall, his mate in the 60s, as the Ripper case was going on and women were getting murdered, he knew about Sutcliffe's behaviour, and he did actually tell the police, I know this guy, and I think he might be the Ripper. Could you look into it? But, the police didn't bother. So, yeah, he knew, because the way Sutcliffe was and his attitude towards prostitutes, the fact that he'd attacked a prostitute, and his mate thought, well, this guy is a good suspect. But anyway, by the by. So, back on with this. Within weeks of this attack, Sutcliffe was arrested in the garden of a house in the Manningham area of Bradford after his car, with its lights on and engine running, had been spotted by a policeman doing his rounds. The policeman discovered Sutcliffe hunched behind a private hedge with a hammer. He claimed that the hubcap had flown off the front wheel of his car, and he had been looking for it. The hammer was to help him secure it back into place. However,
he was well prepared, weren't he? Like getting the hammer out while we were looking for the.
Fair enough. It sounds like
Peter's hammer.
Sounds like a feasible story, but however, in October 1969, he was fined £25 for going equipped for theft. So they didn't believe the hubcap story. The real reason for Sutcliffe being out with a hammer that night was that he wanted to attack a prostitute. So there's some early signs in the late 60s.
Someone told him to hit the road. Hey.
Yeah. So, this, signs there that he's...
a wrong one.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then, so let's... what we'll do is look at the first unsolved case. So, and we'll look at the picture here, the one that you found so funny. So we'll look at this now. 1 second. So the first potential Sutcliffe murder we're going to look at is that of bookmaker Fred Craven. Not a female prostitute, but a man.
I've been a male prostitute. He's a good-looking fella, isn't he?
Yeah. Might be into...
It's like a mini-me version of Jean-Luc Picard.
Well, some people they have a thing. Some people have a thing for dwarfs, don't they? Dwarf porn and that kind of thing.
Jean-Luc Picard on the wrong TV set. Is that what you're saying, Dom?
Well, I think in Cemetery Junction, Dom, in Reading, there was public toilets, and there was
loading on the thing because I'm looking at the stream. It's just that grinning fat guy.
Yeah. But no, where me and Dom used to work nearby Cemetery Junction, there's some public toilets there, and there's a glory hole there, and apparently there was a dwarf that used to do the rounds of the toilet, and he didn't.
There was a gay pub near those toilets, wasn't there?
There was a gay club. It's an ice cream parlour now, but convenient thing. Anyway,
Duncan's
okay then.
Quite a favourite one. Favourite one for bombers and serial killers, isn't it?
Exactly. So, on the 22nd of April, 1966, is the date that Sutcliffe is believed to have committed his first murder. Sutcliffe was 19 years old at the time, and the victim was 66-year-old bookmaker Fred Craven, and there he is there. So at approximately noon on that day, Craven went to his office above an antique shop on Wellington Road, Bingley. 2 men followed him into the office. One of the men smashed him over the head with a blunt instrument before kicking him in the chest and smashing his ribs. 2 men made off with Craven's wallet.
You got to kick pretty hard to get some rib there.
Anyway, the 2 men made off with Craven's wallet, which contained £200. Around 10 minutes later, a relative discovered Craven's lifeless body in a pool of blood. The robbery was probably an opportunist crime. Fred Craven had not been following a particular routine that day, making it unlikely that the crime had been planned, and making it likely that they were local men. One of the men was described as around 40 years old, 5 feet 4 inches tall, unshaven, wearing a dark jacket and a cloth cap. His companion was described as no more than 20, slim, 5 feet 5 inches tall, dressed in a dark jacket, light-coloured trousers, and most distinctively a Donovan cap, which was a popular item of the day, which was worn by Donovan, the folky pop singer.
Do you remember Jennifer Junior he did with Trevor and Simon?
No, she folky.
No, don't you remember Trevor and Simon used to be on?
I remember
Live?
Trevor and Simon. I didn't wish to watch it. I was a bit old at the time, wasn't it?
Oh right, they did a song with Donovan. They did Jennifer.
Yeah, my era is Roland of Grange Hill. That's my
Rowland.
I'm only trying to help you, Roland.
Rowland.
He fucking hated her, didn't he? So anyway.
He should do. She was paying the fucking ass.
Yeah, she was a right pain in the arse, poking her nose in. Anyway,
yeah.
Janet, wasn't it? Anyway, so 2 days later, police turned up.
I bet he looked like a proper knobhead. I've just seen a Donovan cap, and I bet he looked like a right and reet knobhead.
Yeah, it was a fashion those days, like flares. Anyway, 2 days later, police turned up at Peter Sutcliffe's house and arrested his 16-year-old brother, Michael. So not Sutcliffe. Michael was gaining a reputation as a bit of a tearaway and was known to wear a Donovan cap. He was held for 48 hours before being released, as at the time of the murder, he was queuing at the local chip shop. What police didn't know at the time was that there was a more likely suspect at Michael Sutcliffe's address. Peter Sutcliffe also owned and regularly wore a Donovan cap, and he closely matched the description of the second robber. This murder was particularly cruel, as Fred Craven had a spinal disorder, which meant that he was only 4 feet 7 tall. The murder was never solved. So there you go. Do you find it funny now, Hemi, that you were laughing at him?
It still looks funny.
Yeah.
That's
physically disabled.
That's even funnier to know he's 4'7". That makes it.
Yeah.
Is that a 4 foot edge then? He's done it in front.
Yeah. Well, it's not funny. It's not funny, is it?
Big. It's not clever.
Yeah. It's not big and it's not clever. So yeah, that's the first. That's the first.
It's not big and it's not clever. Oh shit! We're gonna get that commentary again, aren't we? You know, you lot laughing at very serious subjects.
Oh yeah, making light of a serious subject. I'm sure the surviving relatives of Fred West were very angry of us because I'm sure they all listened to that podcast.
Was it that popular?
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, so circumstantially, see it, and location-wise, method of attack, it could well have been Sutcliffe. On the other hand, it may not have been. But let's move on and look at another case. So,
before we go on, it's way off his MO though, isn't it? One, it's a bloke, and two, he's working with another bloke. I think it's too far off his MO, personally.
Well, but then his method of attack was a blunt instrument. He was. I don't think he.
Wouldn't they have mentioned his little shitty pencil beard, though? Wouldn't they? Surely they would have mentioned his fucking weird beard, wouldn't they?
He didn't have a beard at that age, though. But it said blunt. He was with a blunt instrument, so it could have been a hammer. It doesn't specify.
That's it. So is this like Batman Begins before he gets the costume, but is this before he got the beard?
This is his origin story.
It's his origin story.
Let's look at the next unsolved case that could have been carried out by Sutcliffe. So, John Tomey, another bloke, was a 27-year-old, slightly built man who earned a living as a taxi driver in the Leeds area.
I just think, like you're saying, another bloke. I just think it's too far because serial killers get set in their way. They don't practice on blokes and then go to women, do they?
Well,
they're quite stuck in their ways, aren't they? Generally, unless they're like a
they are.
But they evolve, and the method of the use of a hammer was very unusual.
Yeah.
Like
I say, but if they,
it's Batman Begins, so he probably would have used the knife first.
If he wanted to carry out a sexual crime on a woman, then he would have used a hammer. But also, maybe if he wanted to carry out just a general robbery, and his method of his chosen weapon could well have been a hammer.
Yeah, he's probably trying out different things, and then when he got to the prostitutes, he thought, I'll stick with this.
As we'll see, let's look at the next crime anyway. So,
do you reckon he had like an Alfred go, Don't use the kosh, Master
Yeah.
Sutcliffe. Use the hammer.
Yeah, so anyway, okay then. So John Tomey was a 27-year-old slightly built man who earned his living as a taxi driver in the Leeds area. On the 22nd of March 1967, he picked up a fare in the city centre in the late evening.
Pipe's got an idea. Maybe the first one had a nail stuck in her.
Possibly.
Yeah.
His passenger was younger than him, in his early 20s at most. The young man asked to be taken to Bradford, then changed his mind and asked to be taken to Bingley. As they approached the town, Mr. Tomey stopped under a street lamp to show his fare the rate card. So to show him how much. At
Not
which
the rate
point he got
card.
a clear look. Yeah, he got a clear look at the man's face. He had dark hair and a beard, and his accent was clearly local. The man then said he had no money to pay his fare, but told Tomey to drive 20 miles to Nelson, where his aunt would pay the fare. Tomey drove on to Nelson, but this was well outside his normal route, so he had to pull over to consult the road map. As Tomey bent forward to get the map from the glove box, he was hit on the back of the head several times with a ball-peen hammer by his passenger, knocking him out briefly. When he came round, he saw his attacker trying to pull open the driver's door, but it was locked. When it wouldn't open, the man smashed the car window with his hammer. Dazed and bleeding heavily, Mr. Tomey managed to somehow drive away. Tomey's skull was severely fractured, and he was unable to drive a taxi again, and was able to work for the vast majority of his life. He would also never marry or have a family. His attacker has never been found. So again,
So is Peter Sutcliffe to blame for the fact he never got a boner again? Is that what it is?
well, yeah, because he's even mental damage, didn't he? So. Again, obviously this isn't a sexual attack. No doubt what the attacker wanted to do there probably was knock the guy out and nick his money, because he must have had money in his taxi. So, again, robberies could have been carried out by Sutcliffe.
He wasn't a petty thief, though, was he?
He was. He did nick stuff.
Oh.
Yeah,
Were the prostitutes sexual attacks, or was it just?
Well, yeah, they obviously were. Yeah.
I mean, it might have been he was targeting them because he knew that no one would give a shit about them.
Yeah, but the reason he was targeting them that was his thing. That was what got him off, was killing. Killing as we'll
Well,
know.
not really, because he failed quite a number of times, didn't he? He was a bit rubbish. Right?
Yeah, but that was only because he failed to kill them. He wanted to kill them, but because he was at certain occasions he was interrupted, or there was someone nearby, so he had to leg it. So anyway,
all this talk of prostitutes and killing and stuff reminds me of the classic Isaac Hayes song, "Prostitute, someone who loves you no matter who you are."
Oh yeah. Anyway, all right, let's look at some more cold cases. So, on Monday, the 26th of February, 1968, the body of 43-year-old Mary Judge was found on waste ground beneath the railway arches opposite Leeds Parish Church. Her clothes were scattered over the derelict ground. Her body showed signs of a savage attack, having been smashed over the head with a brick or a hammer. The damage was so bad that visual identification was impossible. Mary had been a prostitute and was last sighted at 10 minutes past 10 p.m. outside the Regent Hotel in Leeds city centre on the night she died. 10 minutes after the sighting, church verger John Dunhill heard the attack take place, and he said the following. About 10 past 10, I was just going from my house to the vestry when I heard the sounds of banging over towards the railway arches. It was just banging, no screaming. I did not take a great deal of notice because there's always some noise coming from the road on that bit of land. So he heard a commotion but thought nothing of it. At 10:18 p.m. that night, a train passed.
Choir boy, weren't he?
Yeah, in the vestry. So a train passed within 50 yards of the arches. On the train was a small boy who was looking out the window, and he saw a slim, youngish man with long dark hair attacking a woman who fell to the ground. The dark-haired man was never located. So,
Ooh.
interesting, eh?
Ooh. I mean, this is more likely because it's like women.
Hmm.
Because it's like he is a bit of a woman hater, isn't he? I'm not sure about the blokes. Not sure. I've got to say, not sure.
Because he couldn't get it up. I mean, if Viagra was around then, would he have committed these murders?
Well, he was a necrophile, I think, as well, which, there is that as well. He
was getting it up for Sonia, weren't he? Was he doing the biz?
Yeah, I think she was a bit frigid, though, and
she was mental. She was mental, though, weren't she? Weren't she having a string of affairs or something?
She did have an affair, but he had to take what he could get, so he was lucky to get anyone. But she was off her head. She was frigid, and But the fact that she was
as well, weren't she? I think
the fact that she was in such a mental, was such a mental herself, allowed him. She wasn't suspicious of his disappearances. So, where were you last night?
It's a good comment from Exile Bear. Cops use serial killers to close a lot of unsolved crime. I guess they, just get the paperwork out of the way, blame it on him.
Yeah, and drugs don't kill people, rappers do.
Found to the police, woo, woo, woo.
Anyway, let's go on to the next case, anyway. It is less than 90 miles from Leeds to Nottingham. In 1968, the M1, Britain's first motorway, was extended to link Leeds with the rest of the country, dramatically cutting journey times between West Yorkshire and the East Midlands. Getting from Leeds to Nottingham would take no more than 2 hours. On Monday the 4th of August 1969 at 11:30 p.m, screams were heard coming from St Mary's Rest Garden in Bath Street, Nottingham. The body of Lucy Tinslop was then discovered in this location. She had been strangled.
Tinslop.
Tinslop. Tinslop. So yeah.
What? Tinslop.
It's slop.
As if you've got some liquid in a tin and you slop it around. So she had been strangled.
Tin slut, isn't it? Tin slut. Do you say there's an E on there? Is it tin slut?
Tin slut. Slop.
Tin slut.
Anyway. Well, this is what it says here. Tin slop. So anyway, she had been strangled and her abdomen had been ripped open. She had been stabbed in the genital area more than 20 times. Lucy's murder took place on the night of her 21st birthday. No one was ever charged over this murder, so it could have been done by Sutcliffe. Could it have been done by Sutcliffe? The method of attack bears some trademarks of his, and it was at the time in his life when he was mobile. So this would have been shortly after he passed his driving test, taking full advantage.
Where does this fit in with murder? Because like his first few weren't even murders. He just whacked him in the head, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he wasn't very good at it back then.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect. So, having a growing criminal record for driving offences, which indicated that he either owned or had access to a vehicle, and was using them to travel in search of his victims. So yeah, again, that's a murder. He would have had easy access to that location, sort of thing he would do. So yeah. Go to the next picture there, Hemi. Let's have a look at the next illustration on the slideshow.
It's
picture number 2. There we go. There's this. So let's have a look at the murders of Jacqueline Anstell Lamb and Barbara Mayo. So there's the police appeal poster there. So on the Sunday the 8th of March 1970, 18-year-old secretary Jacqueline Ansell Lamb attempted to hitchhike from London back to her home in Manchester. She was given a lift by a man from Earl's Court to one of the slip roads off the M1 motorway in London, where she intended to hitch a lift northwards. She then shared a lift with another man 50 miles up the M1 to Buckinghamshire. Movements thereafter are unknown, and she was reported missing on the 9th of March when she didn't turn up in Manchester. The last place Jacqueline was seen was at a transport cafe at High Lee, just off junction 20 of the M6 near Warrington, Cheshire, talking to a man who has remained unidentified. The 14th of March, the partially clothed body of Jacqueline was found by a 10-year-old boy and his father as they walked through some woodland in Mere, Cheshire, just off the M6 motorway near the cafe where she was last seen. She had been sexually assaulted and strangled with an electrical cable. So...
And do you reckon that 10-year-old boy grew up to be a serial killer himself after seeing that?
Well, he was probably disturbed, wasn't he? But anyway, okay then. In the first week of October 1970, 24-year-old trainee teacher Barbara Mayo drove from London to County Durham with her boyfriend to buy 4 new wheels for their car. On the return journey, the car broke down at Catterick, North Yorkshire. They temporarily abandoned the car at a garage and both hitchhiked back to their home in London. On Monday, the 12th of October 1970, Barbara left her home at about 7:30 a.m. to hitchhike via the M11 back up to Catterick to collect the car. Barbara failed to arrive at the garage and her boyfriend reported her missing.
Why do people hitchhike? It never goes well for them.
Yeah, but he wasn't.
Well, they don't anymore, do they?
He wasn't travelling around then, though, was he? Because was it not till 75 he became?
Well, we'll come on to that, won't we? Yeah. Whoa. I'm just gonna tie up these two shortly.
Oh, okay,
but yeah, but hitchhiking, it's not so common these days. But it used to be all the rage, didn't it? You could always see someone with hitchhiking. I hitchhiked from the West Country to London, actually, in my younger days.
Did you get sodomised?
I didn't know. A guy who worked for the Daily Mail picked us up. I remember, me and my mate, and yeah, he was all right.
He didn't touch your knee while he was changing gears.
No, he didn't. We didn't get touched or anything. So.
Or maybe you did, but it's just repressed memories.
Anyway,
that was the time. That was the time they all got abducted by a UFO, wasn't it?
Fred West could have picked me up if I was I was in the West Country, so I could have been picked up by Fred West, like Vic Reeves was.
About 5 hours of your life unaccounted for.
Yeah, he was abducted by aliens. He remembers the aliens touched his knee.
Had an anal probe. So anyway, police began an extensive search of motorway networks, but failed to find her, though witnesses suggest that she was last seen getting into a white Morris Traveller car. 6 days later, on Sunday, the 18th of October, 1970, a honeymooning couple stumbled across Barbara's body in bushes on the edge of a lonely wood off the Hodmere Lane, Blackwell in Derbyshire, about a mile off the M1. She was face down with her clothing in disarray and her jacket spread over her. She had been beaten about the head and strangled with a ligature. So, yeah. So there's 2 murders there, obviously. From the London area, not Yorkshire. And you think, hey, all right, then what's they're probably not in the locale. But let's look at the next part.
Well, the reason they didn't catch Ed Kemper sooner was because there was also another. I think was there another 2 serial killers operating at the same time in the same area as him.
Yeah, it could well have been copycat killers.
Yeah.
Maybe
he was copycatting them.
You think he lived in a Kemper van?
A Kemper van.
Anyway, all right then. So in 1967, 21-year-old Peter Sutcliffe met future wife, 16-year-old Sonia Mirza. So she was just legal there, eh? So they eventually married in 1974. In 1970, Sonia moved to London to attend teacher training college, her first term being in September of that year. This meant that Peter and Sonia would be apart, and Peter would make frequent trips from Bradford to London via the M1 to visit Sonia. So this is making sense now, isn't it? Eh?
Okay.
Dates, location, opportunity, and modus operandi make Jacqueline Ansel Lamb and Barbara Mayo both possible victims of the Yorkshire Ripper. Also, at the time of Barbara Mayo's murder, Peter Sutcliffe did own a white Morris Traveller car, a vehicle in which she was last seen. So, yeah. Go to the next picture there, Hemi. Let's have a look at such a vehicle. So,
Ooh, that's a beauty,
there.
that isn't it? Look at
Isn't
that.
it? My mum used to have one, actually.
I bet he was slaying pussy in that, weren't he?
To be honest, it was quite a good, cheap little, car. He wasn't great, but wasn't,
I ironically like the Morris Marina, especially with the wood
Yeah.
panelling. I've got photographs of one I saw in Malta. I took pictures of remarkable condition.
To be fair, that's rusty as fuck, that is. You can see it from here, can't you? That wing's fucked.
Why did they have wood on them?
Give the
Make it more-
carpenters something to do. Literally,
Made it
that's
look
why.
more
So they had an
luxurious,
excuse
isn't
to have
it?
a strike. So, wow, we're bolting wood to metal. Everybody out.
It's
They did-
literally it's the same reason why so many cars will have drum brakes in the rear and disc brakes in the front, because you could retool the factories, but it'd be so expensive.
Mhm.
For a lot of cars, you just go, just stick drums in the back and we can keep these factories working.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have seat belts. Seat belts were a luxury. So, yeah, but anyway.
So he was
there you
slaying
go.
pussy literally in that car. Then.
Anyway, after Sutcliffe's arrest in 1981, he was questioned by detectives about these two murders, but was finally
can I give you-
eliminated.
Can I slip in a slip in a
joke.
quote from
Go on.
No, this is a quote. It is almost a joke. This is Jim Hobson, a senior West Yorkshire detective. He says the perpetrator has made it clear that he hates prostitutes. Many people do. We as a police force will continue to arrest prostitutes, but the Ripper's now killing innocent girls. That indicates your mental state and that you're in urgent need of medical attention. You've made your point. Give yourself up before another innocent woman It's like, we're okay with you murdering prostitutes, but now you're killing civilians. It's got to stop. That's kind of that was the attitude of the Yorkshire police.
Yeah, but it wasn't, though, because this just prostitutes were the easiest targets. But, he was eventually he was
Well, you can see
murdering anyone.
from that comment there. There's they are an easy target because the police that literally
Oh, yeah, obviously,
until you start
you can get them.
killing civilians.
What you've got to do is, you can entice them into your car. They're alone, so easy for him to do. Anyway, after Sutcliffe's arrest in 1981, he was questioned by detectives about these two murders, but was finally eliminated from the investigation due to lack of solid evidence. The murders remain unsolved. So there you go.
But I bet there's a lot of liquid evidence, though.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So yeah, a lot of DNA. Shame DNA wasn't wasn't that common in those days.
A lot of people used to keep. A lot of police forces used to keep stuff, and they've actually caught people by re-examining.
They kept the I'm Jack letters, didn't they? And he got banged up many years later.
Yeah, they caught him eventually.
He's
didn't
dead
they?
now. Yeah, but saliva on the envelope, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Is that how they caught him? Was it?
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, we're not gonna cover this in the show, so we can discuss this. During the Ripper investigation, there were letters and a tape sent from just someone mucking about saying that they were the Ripper. People do these things, they get off on it, but for some reason, police took it seriously. So, and this sort of derailed the investigation, basically allowing Sutcliffe to kill more because they were after the wrong person. Never caught the guy, but as DNA technology progressed over the years, it was 2006, I think it was. They got DNA off the envelopes.
What was his
the
name?
letters were
Wearside
sent
Jack.
in.
I'll just have a look.
Yeah, Wearside Jack. They got DNA off the envelopes that the letters were sent in, ran it through the DNA database, and it came up with a match. Basically, the guy was being arrested for being drunk and disorderly and was on the database, and that's how they caught him. He's actually dead now, isn't he? But he got 8 years. He finally got banged up for 8 years.
Yeah.
And it was 20-odd years later, so yeah, pretty good stuff. Anyway,
March 21st, 2006, Humble was sentenced to 8 years in prison.
Yeah, he's dead now, but
he got out in 2009 after serving 4 years and was given. He was actually given a new identity.
Well,
so in August 2019, it was reported he died at his home in South Shields on July 30th, due to heart failure
know,
and the effects of alcoholism. I think it
they-
must have affected him that he.
Yeah, they say. Yeah, the thing is, though, they say because of him that the Ripper was able to carry out three extra murders. But to be honest, they never should have taken it as seriously as they did. And it's the fact that the police were so
how many
desperate.
times did they have Pete in? I mean, they must have been on first terms with him.
Yeah,
the times they had him in.
No, they had him 9 times before they arrested him, and because it was a manual filing system at the time, they couldn't collate the information, so they'd interview him without knowing that he'd previously been interviewed.
Because wasn't it that case that led to Holmes being created, the cross-referencing?
Yeah, but that came
Was
after.
Was he interviewed in different stations? I mean, surely the
So
receptionist.
he was interviewed at his home a few times. He was interviewed at his workplace. So
It was one investigation that did the lot. So like his name was coming up at the top of a lot of lists. I mean, it was his firm that had the two £5 notes.
£5 note.
Yeah.
So yeah, because obviously again, for the people at home who don't know, one of his victims, a £5 note was found on the in the prostitute's handbag, wasn't it? And it was a new £5 note. So they assumed, and rightly so, that £5 note would have been issued to someone in their wage. So they were able to track the £5 note to just about 5 workplaces. They whittled it down to about 200 men, of which Sutcliffe was one of them. But
What would £5 get you from a prostitute back then?
well, in those days, you'd get hand job. I think hand job.
Probably.
Yeah.
No, 5 would have got you a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe. But a street. But yeah, so I think they did interview him, but he had an alibi, and because Sonia was mental, it was easy enough to get her to say, to convince her that they were at home together. But anyway, but yeah, had they had computers though in those days, they would have caught him a lot quicker. But because he was, these.
Well, this is why you don't really get modern serial killers, do you? Unless there's something.
But yeah, so
unless there's something going on.
There's a lot of
something extra special about them. You're not going to get past 2 or 3, really, are you? And
plus also there's CCTV and everywhere as well, isn't there?
That's what I mean. You're barely going to get 2 under your belt. I mean, I think.
I'll say those old guys that did that robbed the jewelry shop a few years ago. They made a film about it, didn't they?
Yeah.
The Diamond Geezers. Yeah, their car was seen on CCTV. That's how they got rumbled. Anyway, all right. Enough from me. Dom's now going to tell us some more about the unsolved cases of the Yorkshire Ripper. Over to you.
Yes. Sutcliffe would eventually move to London, be nearer to Sonia in late 1970, and would live there for about a year, gaining work as a mechanic in a garage in Deptford, southeast London. And if you've never been to Deptford, I would advise you never to go.
You could go there right now, but I suggest you don't.
It's nicknamed the Devil's Arsehole, isn't it?
So at 8 a.m. on the morning of Sunday, 13th July, 1971.
You could go to there right now and you could check it out, but I recommend you don't.
Yes, exactly. 8 a.m. on the morning of Sunday, 30th July 1971, a 15-year-old schoolboy doing his paper round in South Ruislip, London, came across the corpse of a young woman when he took a shortcut to Stonefield Park. Clothes had been strewn around and there was blood everywhere. The Met identified the dead woman as 29-year-old secretary Gloria Booth. Gloria earned extra cash by working part-time as a barmaid in the White Hart pub opposite South Ruislip Park. On the 12th of June 1971, Gloria left White Hart at 11:30 p.m. Eyewitnesses told police that she was seen walking towards the A40 roundabout in Ruislip. At 11:50, Gloria made a phone call from the phone box on Western Avenue, the barman of the nearby Viking pub. with whom she had agreed to go to a party that night. They could finalise the arrangements, the line cut out. 12:30 a.m, Gloria was seen standing outside the Viking pub, apparently waiting for the barman. Eyewitnesses told police that they had noticed her talking to a man of shortish height who was wearing dark clothing. Around 1 a.m, Gloria was seen on Nairn Road beside Stonefield Park. A footpath ran parallel with the road along the hedge outside the recreation ground, where within 2 hours she would be attacked and killed. An autopsy showed that Gloria had been strangled to death and other damage to the body had taken place after she had died. Bite marks were discovered which showed her attacker as having a gap in their front teeth, a characteristic associated with Peter Sutcliffe. There was also evidence that the attacker had masturbated at the scene. The method of attack and treatment of the body shows the hallmarks of a Yorkshire Ripper attack. Small traces of motor oil were discovered on the body, and this would tie in with the Sutcliffe's job in a garage at the time. The case was never solved.
Very circumstantial, that one.
Yeah, well, bite marks, I reckon it was probably a werewolf.
But he had a gap in his front teeth.
Do you remember that other case where the woman was murdered and they found it through paint chippings or something? Was that Jack the Stripper? That wasn't Jack the Stripper, was it? It was someone else.
Jack the Stripper.
I don't think it was Jack the Stripper.
Was it?
There was a woman.
Was it done by the murdering infant, Jack the Nipper?
Jack the Nipper Ellis, the evil from the evil timeline.
Oh yeah, no, Nipper Ellis. Didn't he catch the craze? But
yeah, that's what I mean. Jack the Nipper Ellis.
Or basically, anything that rhymes with Ripper, you can make one up if you want. But anyway, it's up to you.
Yeah.
if he dips
what about the serial?
What about the Dipper?
Or the serial killer that used to take LSD, Jack the Tripper. We could do this all night now.
Or the pikey serial killer, Jack the Ripper.
Yay! 2 points for your team.
What about Jack the Ripper's sailor cousin? Jack the Clipper.
Yeah, 2 points to that team.
Or Jack the Ripper's Jewish cousin, Jack the Clipper, Jack the Coin Clipper.
I think the most notorious of all these killers is for this method of execution, Jack the Zipper. Double how that's done.
That's Jack the Zipper was the one that used to kill people with his lighter, wasn't it? Stabbed them with a lighter.
Well, I was thinking.
No, Jack the Zippo, that is, isn't it?
No, Jack the Zipper is the impromptu circumcision time.
Yeah.
Or the man who used to overfeed people with fish, Jack the Kipper.
Okay, then back to the go on.
Okay. Friday, 17th of on Friday, December the 29th, 1972, in Wakefield, 17-year-old secretary Dolly Gray left a pub where she had been drinking and made her way home alone. As she walked, she became aware that she was being followed. Looking behind her, she saw a man with staring eyes, dark longish hair and a beard. Dolly quickened her walk to try and shake off her pursuer. As she approached her home, she was grabbed from behind. Screaming loudly, her attacker covered her mouth, telling her to shut up, and punched her on the back of the head as she screamed again. Isn't that the donkey punch?
Yeah.
Anyway, she was then shoved against the wall, at which point a prison officer heard the commotion and came running out of his house to help. He ran after the attacker but failed to catch him. He was able to provide a photo fit of the man. Which, if we can see the next picture, please.
Let's have a look at the photo fit.
Jesus.
Look familiar?
It's Jesus.
It is Jesus.
Looks like Charles Manson, yeah.
Or Billy Connolly. We used to kill the woman and then do a jobby.
Oh, we missed one. The dolphin killer, Jack the Flipper.
Oh yeah. Good one. Who's that then? Who did that one? HP. Oh no, D 2017. Oh no, it's not. It's Damien. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll send him a T-shirt then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mug. Send him a 14 words mug.
Yeah.
Right, Hemi
was such a thing.
bobblehead.
Hemi bobble.
Right,
Or a
Jack
bong.
Ripper bobblehead. That's what you can have.
Fortean Words bong, perhaps.
I'll drink to that.
He was described as 5 feet 10 inches tall, in his mid-20s, with long dark hair, dark eyebrows, and a beard and moustache. On Sutcliffe's arrest in 1981, Dolly believed that he was the one who had attacked her.
Mm. Well, it is a likeness. It is a likeness of him there. Trouble is, though.
What year was this? Is it the 70s? Like a man with beard and long hair?
Yeah, that's the trouble. The attacker wore flared trousers. That narrows it down a bit.
Flared trousers and airplane collar.
Yeah.
So, does anyone remember Ivan Dobsky from Monkey Dusk? He a 70s serial killer.
Mm.
He had
Doesn't ring a bell.
he had a space hopper, Mr. Hoppy. Anyway, at some point in 1971, Sutcliffe would have moved from London back to Bradford, while Sonia continued her studies in London and started her second year in September 1971.
Oh, what about
Sutcliffe
the other serial killer with the big beard and the tattoos? Jack the Hipster.
Who liked coffee? Who liked paying £8 for a coffee?
Yeah.
Sutcliffe told her that he would travel down to see her as often as possible. April 1972, Sonia had 2 weeks off from college, so she returned to Bradford for the break. Sutcliffe drove her back to London after this period on the 17th of April. The following day, a 22-year-old woman was found barely alive in undergrowth beside a lay-by near Hemel Hempstead. Mary Burke was a drifter and truck hopper. 6:30 p.m. on the 18th of April
Was
1970.
Sonia and Peter travelling separately or together?
He was no, they travelled together, isn't it? He would drive her. He would drive her to London. He'd drop her off for her studies because he was a mental. She couldn't be in charge of a car.
But she was coming back though, wasn't she? Which means they'd be together in the car, wouldn't they?
No,
he
he would
would
take her.
This was
No,
the
he would
next
take her.
day, so he took
Yeah.
her back to London. He probably stayed around for a bit.
Oh right, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just trying to be the I'm just trying to be the Snopes in the room.
The cat in the manger. Well,
Yeah.
you won't catch us out. We've got it all sus. So.
Yeah.
Stick to names which rhyme with Ripper.
I'm just being the Snope. Actually,
Snake in the
if he was
grass.
convicted of it, it means he didn't do it.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it, isn't it? Anyway, go on.
Anyway, you're quite funny with all these Jack the Ripper names. Is your name Jack the Quipper? So, Marie Burke, drifter and a truck hopper, at 6:30 p.m. on the 18th of April 1972, she was spotted thumbing a lift at the start of the M1 in the North London suburb of Brent Cross. 2 hours later, an off-duty policeman discovered her in some bushes beside the A414. She was unconscious but still breathing.
Right. But it could have
What
been
about
the killer.
that serial killer that used to drown people, Jack the Dipper?
Right. Or the serial killer that used to wear comfortable shoes in the house, Jack the Slipper. Anyway, go on.
Oh, school. Oh God, this is right up your street, Ian. School bully serial killer, Jack the Gripper. You remember Gripper?
Right. I'm going through the shit. I missed that. I'm going through the alphabet and I missed that. Actually, I was surprised with that one. Anyway, go on. Back to the story.
Marie had severe wounds to the back of her head, had been caused by a blunt instrument, and she spent 3 weeks in a coma, hovering between life and death. When she did awake, she had no memory of the attacker or the events leading up to it. Marie Burke left dead by the Yorkshire Ripper. Attacks had the hallmarks of a Ripper attack. There can be no certainty that there will be many more victims to come. And
it is entirely like his first one was 19. So I've just had a quick look, and his first one was 1969, and then you're expected to think he goes a whole 5 years without doing anything. So.
Yeah, he must have been up to something.
Yeah,
it's uncontrollable, the urge. So even if he didn't kill, he would have tried or done something along those lines.
Sonia probably did his head in, didn't she? Always playing that trumpet.
R.S.
Maybe all these women were just Karens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a Sonia from EastEnders joke there, lads. I said she was always playing the trumpet.
Oh, yeah, I saw that episode. Yeah. You were lesbian, do you want to play the trumpet? Or whatever. Ricky wasn't
What are you thinking, Sonia?
Sonia.
1 minute you're a lesbian, the next minute you're playing the trumpet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is that a euphemism for something?
Okay, we can go on to the next picture.
Oh, hold on a sec.
So look at that, man.
Oh, look at that! What a beauty!
As we can see, that was Malcolm McDowell from Planet of the Apes, without the makeup on.
Is that a man or a woman? Just can't.
It's a German helmet. on the.
That's a. Do you remember that guy on? It was the guy on Twitter who used to do the well ends. Did you ever watch him? Hashtag well end. Like a well end is like a Paul Weller like haircut. So they call it.
Oh, right.
So they're a bell end and a Paul with a Paul Weller haircut. So they're a well end.
But that was the haircut. Well that was the haircut of the 70s.
That's
I've got a new word in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Pudding bowl.
Just look up hashtag well end and you'll find them. Like I think people see
because everyone was poor in those days, you had to cut your own hair, so couldn't afford to go to the. That's why it ended up like that. There's
no need for it to look like that, though. Even if you do it yourself, I think even if you did it yourself in the dark, I don't think you'd come up without a haircut, would you? It's only one going to an hairdresser and go, "I'll have one of those, please."
Around 6:30 p.m. on the evening of 7th of June 1972. 14-year-old Judith Roberts, pictured, left her home in Gilway Lane, Wigington, cycle ride along Wigington.
It's a real place.
She looks like she comes from Wigington, doesn't she?
She looks
so
like she's
what's
wearing
Wigington famous for? Oh no, we're going to get the complaints, Ian. We're going to get the complaints again.
Well, I haven't heard from that guy again, so I wouldn't mind.
This is a very sensitive subject, and you lot are laughing about it. How dare you?
He's probably killed himself by now. Probably dead, that guy. So yeah, that's why we haven't heard from him.
He probably heard the episode about jerk off crystals and had a heart attack.
Yeah, that was too much for him.
Right, so where was I? She left her home in Wigington for a cycle ride along Comerford Lane. Comerford.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
I think someone's been having a laugh with this story, and I've taken it seriously. I've been got. Anyway, go on.
So at 10:30 p.m. that evening, Judith still had not arrived home, so her parents called the police. A large-scale search took place, and at 4:30 p.m., 2 trainee soldiers searched in the fields surrounding Comerford Lane.
Well, they comb in the area.
The body was hidden behind a 12-foot hedge and was covered with leaves, fertiliser sacks, and a sheet of asbestos.
And they still couldn't cover up her bad hairdo.
She was discovered less than a mile from her home. Judith had been attacked from behind with a heavy blunt instrument, and her skull was fractured into 18 pieces. Witness said he had seen a man wearing work clothes and Wellington boots walking and talking to Judith at the Street end of Comerford Lane. Another witness described seeing a Morris Minor car on the lane. Sutcliffe had already established a habit of approaching and talking with his victims before smashing them over the back of the head. He also owned a Morris Minor. By a description matching that of Sutcliffe's, Andrew Evans, 17-year-old soldier with learning difficulties, was arrested for the murder of Judith Roberts.
I thought you were going to say he was arrested for giving her a haircut.
Suffering delusional depression, Evans confessed to Roberts' murder, and although he had retracted his statement, he was jailed for 25 years. In 1997, his conviction
Is
was
that what
quashed.
police used to do in the 70s? They just find like the local retard and just fucking stick him up.
Yeah, they just find someone who's not likely to ask for a lawyer.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's like, was it Stefan Kitchko was the same, weren't he? He weren't full ticket, was he? And he got
Barry George as well. Barry George was the same.
George.
And
I bet. Come on, but he's talking about Barry George now. Barry George definitely killed Jill Dando.
Barry George is basically 007.
Yeah. He jumped 3 double-decker buses on roller skates, and you're saying that he can barely lift a gun.
But no, he didn't do that murder. I can't believe that he was locked up for that. But and at the time, I was following the case, and I didn't believe it. But that it would happen these days
Barry
anyway.
George, though, he jumped 3 double-decker buses on roller skates. That's an actual fact. That really is a thing.
I suppose so.
Barry George did the double block.
Does make sense.
He convinced them that he did he did it. Convinced them that he didn't do it because he was too much of a retard. But like me and Hobbit are onto him, haven't we, Hobbit?
Anyone who jumps buses on roller skates is capable of killing Jill Dando. So I suppose you have got a point there.
Yeah, I mean, how can you jump 3 double-decker buses yet be too retarded to lift the gun?
He was mountain climbing. He was translating Sumerian into ancient Greek. He did it all, but he was functionally retired. It's like, oh yeah, he's only got an IQ of 74.
Yeah, we're not having none of your Snipes business with Barry George, Ian. All
right, fair enough.
Anyway, this particular retard in question had his conviction quashed in 1997. He was awarded 1 million squids in compensation.
At least they did it in a timely manner, didn't they? Jesus Christ.
Anyway, let's move on to some more unsolved cases.
He's still haunted by that haircut to this day.
Barry George did get a good payoff though. And he was inside for 8 years, I think.
Barry George is literally 007, isn't he? But
he's fucking loaded now.
That money was basically hush money. MI6 said, here's a briefcase of unmarked, non-sequential 20 and £50 notes. Now fuck off.
Good job.
At noon on Wednesday, the 12th of September 1973, 32-year-old office worker Wendy Sewell left her office at the Forestry Commission in Bakewell, Derbyshire, headed for the local cemetery at Yeld Road. Why Wendy went to the cemetery that lunchtime is not clear. A work colleague said that she was overheard talking in her office to an unknown man who had a distinctive high-pitched voice. Shortly afterwards, she told her boss that she was stepping out to get some air and began to make her way to the cemetery. At 12:50 p.m, she was seen by several people entering the graveyard through the main entrance on Yeld Road. At the same time, a 17-year-old cemetery worker called Stephen Downing was about to leave the burial ground to walk home for his lunch break. Just after 1 p.m, Wendy Sewell was subjected to a sustained frenzied attack close to the consecrated chapel in the cemetery grounds. He was garroted with a ligature and smashed on the back of the head from behind at least 8 times with a pickaxe handle. A few minutes later, Stephen Downing walked back up Yeld Road and found Wendy lay face down and heavily bloodstained but still alive, lying on the footpath in the cemetery. Downing went to get help and Wendy was taken to hospital. She went into a coma and died 2 days later. From the onset, Derbyshire police viewed Downing as the prime suspect. Though Downing was 17 at the time, he had learning difficulties, see a pattern emerging, and had a reading age of an 11-year-old. The blood of the victim blood of the victim on Stephen's clothes, but this got there when he tried to help her. For a miscarriage of justice, Stephen Downing served 27 years for the murder. So I think the moral of this story, if you discover a body, don't report it to the police. So in 2002, Downing's conviction was quashed and he was awarded 750,000 squids in compensation. It had been described as one of Britain's worst miscarriages of justice. Further evidence had shown that Wendy Sewell was also garroted before being beaten, methods used by Peter Sutcliffe. He was probably disturbed before he could finish the job off, and Stephen Downing found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's a bastard, isn't it?
So, yes. Over to you, Ian.
Okay then, so yeah, circumstantially, there's again, could have been Sutcliffe. Graveyard as well, which he liked. Anyway, okay then, so let's run with some more cases. So let's go on to the next one.
Oh, wait, still sticking to the bad haircut picture.
We'll just admire that for the moment. We'll change it in a bit, but we'll just keep that there just to remind us of how things were in those days. So, at 7 a.m. on Friday, the 22nd of February, 1974, the lifeless body of 24-year-old prostitute Rosie Hillard was discovered by a lorry driver on a building site on Spinney Road, Leicestershire. Yeah. She had been strangled, and her skull had been shattered from behind, probably with a hammer. Is there
no honour amongst lorry drivers? He should have recognised the fellow lorry driver's work, shouldn't he, and kept stum.
Rosie had been spotted at 1:30 a.m. in the morning of her murder, touting for business, half a mile from where her body was discovered. Witnesses told police that they had seen a Morris Minor or a Ford Escort motor vehicles in the area on the night of her attack, and tyre prints from a Ford vehicle were discovered near the murder scene. A couple who were out walking near Spinney Road at 2 a.m. didn't witness the murder, but they said they heard the sound of high-revving engine, evidently trying to free itself from muddy ground coming from the building site. The attack fitted the MO of a Sutcliffe attack, and at the time, police records showed that he would have been the owner of a Morris Minor or a Ford Capri.
What's the name?
Could easily be
like he could have owned a Morris Minor or a Ford Capri.
Yeah, obviously around this time, obviously records show that around this time he was the owner of those vehicles. Maybe they couldn't pinpoint the dates. So a Capri, which could be in dark, in dark light, could be mistaken for an Escort. So yeah. Could Sutcliffe have travelled to Leicester to attack Rosie Hillard? Spinney Road is just off the A47, the main trunk road that leads to the M1, which connects the East Midlands to West Yorkshire. The pattern of Sutcliffe's offending showed that he typically favoured sites offering clear and quick escape routes to motorways. The murder of Rosie Millard will never be solved, but like so many of these cases, she was killed by a man whose method, technique, and emotional signature very closely matched that of Peter Sutcliffe. So yeah, again, could it be a Sutcliffe murder?
Did he have reason to be in the area? In that area?
Well, he had access to the area, see, so we don't know, maybe...
Oh, I don't know, he has access to the whole of the United Kingdom, doesn't he? Did he have kind of... have they got any kind of movement?
But ease of access to, with the new motorways, he could do it in less than an hour from where he lived, sort of thing. Obviously, if it was a murder in Cornwall, then it would be a bit more difficult. But anyway, plus around this time he would have been working as a lorry driver as well, so he would be travelling around. So
yeah.
So let's just look at another crime. Bear with me. So, on Friday the 1st of March 1974, 37-year-old typist Kay O'Connor was at her home at number 8 Wickham Road, Colchester, Essex. At around 4 p.m, a neighbour heard strange noises coming from Kay's kitchen. She peered through the back window and saw Kay lying in a pool of blood on the kitchen floor. When the police arrived at the scene, they discovered that Kay had been strangled, then stabbed, kicked, and punched in a frenzied attack. The murder had been carried out brutally and quickly, giving her no chance to scream, let alone crawl for help. A large-scale police investigation into the crime proved fruitless. Reports of a man seen in the area at the time of Kay's murder described the suspect as around 5'6" tall, of medium build, and wearing heavy work clothes. His most noticeable feature was a pair of large, bushy sideburns that almost met at the corners of his mouth. No arrest was made, and the murder remains unsolved. Though Sutcliffe lived more than 200 miles from this crime scene, his sister did happen to live less than 50 miles away in neighbouring Cambridgeshire, and he would make regular trips to visit her. His most likely and logical route would take him very close to Colchester, and these factors, and plus Sutcliffe's history of almost identical attacks on other women, should have linked him to this murder. But it wasn't to be, so.
Because the police are shit.
Well, it's just method of attack, and plus opportunity. You know, could well have been Sutcliffe, could have been someone else, but we'll never know. So
yeah, some of them seem a bit of a stretch, don't they?
Yeah, but they're
50
unsolved.
miles
and...
from his sister's house. It's
well, no, but his route, the route would take him past Colchester, very close to Colchester. So
that's
yeah,
actually in a woman's house, though, wasn't it? I mean, was she a prostitute?
Well, in those days, though, people would leave their doors unlocked, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be. It wasn't like today. So
I don't know. That's I don't know. I think those kind of house invasion type of things. I think those are kind of those seem like they're more done by like absolute like people who've done a lot of checking the area, don't they?
Or like, well, no, there was, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. He did a lot of house attacks, but wasn't very meticulous, and his murders were wildly different. So,
but he tended to kill a lot of families. He killed entire families, didn't he? He very rarely killed lone women, did he?
Hmm.
So what I mean is, would you like randomly rock up, see if a woman's in her kitchen, and
maybe she was on the game though. You don't know.
Well, that's
been.
what I'm saying. Was she on the game?
It didn't specify, and maybe she was on the side. You know, there is some of the Sutcliffe attacks, the ones he was convicted of, that were on the game. People didn't know that. Their family didn't even know that until after it happened. So
has anybody asked him why you done it?
Who? Sutcliffe?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and he's head case, isn't he? Obviously.
God told him to do it, didn't he?
Shits and giggles.
God, you know, one of his he said he heard voices telling him to do it. God told him to clean up the streets, but you know that's just what he said. No, basically he did it because he was a necrophiliac, and that's what turned him on. Killing women was his. You know, that's what got him going, basically.
Killing women and truck driving.
That's what it was.
The reverse gay Dennis Nielsen.
Yeah, Dennis Nielsen was probably had the same type of thing. But anyway, let's look at
only used to kill people after he got blind drunk, though.
Yeah, it seems almost like he didn't want to do it, didn't it? It was weird with.
Yeah. They weren't going to struggle then, were they? So.
After he got drunk, not his victim.
Yeah, he got blind drunk before he murdered them. He got them both drunk, didn't he?
Anyway, all right, let's look at another case. On Wednesday, the 10th of April, 1974, 17-year-old nanny Caroline Ann left her employer's house at Warner Avenue in the Nottingham suburb of Bramcote. She planned to catch a bus to her home 15 miles away in the village of Kinolton. By 8 p.m, the weather had turned. The night was cloudy and overcast, with visibility rapidly fading. When she didn't arrive home Nottinghamshire Constabulary began a missing persons inquiry. Caroline was known to have frequently hitchhiked locally, and it was assumed that she had done so that evening. More than 100 officers combed the area with tracker dogs, and appeals were made for sightings. One witness came forward and said that she had seen a girl matching Caroline's description talking to a driver of a lime green coloured Lotus Europa car in Edwalton, roughly halfway between Bramcote and Kinalton. What made the sighting memorable was that the driver had been travelling on the opposite direction and had turned around when he saw the hitchhiking young girl. After a brief conversation, she was seen getting into the vehicle, which drove off southwards along the A46 connecting Nottingham with Leeds. This was possibly the last time that Caroline was seen alive. 20 months later, on the 3rd of December 1975, a walker out for an afternoon shooting found a skeletal and fully decomposed body in Old Dalby Wood in Little Belvoir, Leicestershire. The wood was 6 miles from Caroline's home. The corpse was identified by a watch engraved with Caroline's name still clinging to the remains. Must have been a gruesome sight to come across. A post-mortem showed that Caroline had been beaten around the back of the head, though lack of flesh made it difficult to establish if any stabbing or strangulation had taken place. Though Sutcliffe did not own a lime green Lotus at the time of the murder, he did own a lime green Ford Capri. So if we go to the next picture there, Hemi, let's just look at the two cars.
This is a comparison.
Let's look at the side-by-side comparison and just see if you could be mistaken. Because obviously...
So he literally owned the Pratmobile from Only Fools and Horses, then.
Yeah, or the professionals mobile, but obviously the Lotus.
Well, you remember the Pratmobile from Only Fools and Horses? That literally was lime green, weren't it? Remember that one?
Yeah,
So,
I would buy that comparison. Yeah.
In dark light, and also, well, we'll look at this now.
I don't know. You got round and square lights, though, and you know, I hate to be the Snopes in the room.
Visibility was poor.
Yeah,
Though
and
they are very
enthusiast, you're not gonna immediately recognise.
Yeah.
Whilst we're looking at some classic cars there, can I just say, why do modern cars go, oh yeah, we're just going to have a polycarbonate thing for your headlights, which goes misty? Why can't we have glass? Glass doesn't go misty.
Probably glass is racist or something these days.
Fuck plastic. None of my friends like plastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, though they are very different cars, they do both possess sporty appearance, and in low visibility, as it was at the time, could the witness be mistaken? Also, Sutcliffe's Capri had a black roof in contrast to the lime green body, which at a distance may give it more of a Lotus-like appearance.
Did the witness actually say it was a Lotus?
Yeah, but they say anything, don't they? They can be mistaken, though, can't they?
If someone says a Lotus, then they know a bit more about cars. And
it could be.
I think if they were like someone who didn't know anything about cars at all, they'd go, "Oh, it's a."
Could have been
or whatever.
Yeah, but maybe it was a complete fucking idiot who said it. You could just say those things.
Then again, and also the memory recall with witnesses is absolutely
fucking
terrible,
dipshits. But anyway, thus far,
div kid.
Yeah, the remedial kids. Thus far, there isn't strong enough evidence to firmly point the finger at Sutcliffe for this murder. However, on the 1st of April 1974, 9 days before Caroline's murder, Sutcliffe's sister, Maureen, she comes back into it again, gave birth to her second child. Yeah. She gave birth to her second child, and within a week she was back at her home in Duxford, Cambridgeshire. The most logical route that Peter would have taken to visit his sister and her family would take him past Melton Mowbray and on through Leicestershire and past the southern edge of Nottinghamshire, where Caroline Ann disappeared.
Where was he coming
This
from?
would have been a trip that Sutcliffe made on a regular basis, though the murder remains unsolved.
Where was he coming from?
And relax.
He'd get on the A1, wouldn't he?
Well, I don't know. In those days, though, you didn't have so many roads, did you? That's what it says here, anyway. I'm not going to... But yeah, so... I don't really know the roads are in that way, but... And also, in those days, there weren't as many roads, were there? So...
Yeah.
So there you go. Could he have done that? We don't know. We'll never know. But what we might know is that Dom is going to tell us a few more cases before we round up. Yeah, before we... Dom's going to tell us a few more cases.
I don't want to be that guy, but it seems they're just trying to clear up all the hammer murders in the United Kingdom.
Well, it's more... It's not even the... this is just, suggestion. It's not even done by the police. This is more than independent investigators, because the police don't want... they don't want any more to do with it. But we'll listen to the next cases that Dom's going to tell us, and then we can make up our mind. Go for it.
At around 7:30 p.m. on Monday, the 11th of November 1974, 28-year-old Gloria Wood was crossing some playing fields. She headed to her flat on the Homewood estate in Bradford's southeast fringes, less than 5 miles away from where Sutcliffe and his wife Sonia lived at the time. Gloria said the following. And where was she from? Bradford. Oh no, I'm not going to do the accent. Okay. I was coming through the school grounds. This man approached me. He came up to me and said, "Can I carry your bag, love?" I said, "No, thanks. I haven't got far to go." Seemed a right big man with staring eyes, dark brown eyes, and he was olive skin coloured. Black, not white, but Mediterranean looking, Greek or Italian. He had a beard, a black beard, and black hair. That impression would be the last thing that Gloria Wood knew until she woke up in Leeds Hospital the following day. She had been smashed on the back of the head with a ball-peen hammer and had slumped unconscious to the ground. Gloria had suffered a brutal attack in which the hammer had struck 4 blows, caving in her skull and leaving tiny splinters in her brain. The attacker didn't finish her off, as there were some youths nearby which must have interrupted him. She was discovered almost dead and rushed to hospital. Now, see, I would have used a gun, because then you could kill her easily and kill the youths nearby.
Yeah, machine gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is more like it. It's local area, not too far. This seems more plausible to me.
Anyway, less than an hour after this attack, Sutcliffe clocked in for a night shift at his then workplace, Anderton International Factory. The distance between the crime scene and the factory was no more than 6 miles. Gloria Wood is adamant that she was attacked by Peter Sutcliffe. Is angry that he has never been charged with the crime.
Yeah, the times match up nicely there.
Yeah,
does the attack then goes to work?
It's convincing because it's his MO and his neighbourhood basically.
And it's like a little local area. It's not too.
But even so, the others you can put him in the locale where he was travelling around though. There was that
some of
factor.
them like 50 miles from his sister and stuff like that. I think that's a bit.
Well, but if he was in the area though during his journey, that's the thing.
I don't know. I mean, is there enough? So say you're a serial killer. Is there enough information to weigh up whether you can get away with murdering someone just when you're passing them on the road? I think there's a bit.
That's probably the best. Well, that's probably the best time, isn't it? Because you'll no doubt be travelling.
Yeah.
If you're well out of the area, aren't you? Just go passing through, do the murder, then go 200 miles away. Then
Kind of roadside murders. I'd put in the bracket, but I don't think I'd put in the one like the house invasion one because I don't. It doesn't sound a lot like his MO, does it?
I mean, he was like, wasn't he schizophrenic or something?
No, well, he said he was because his wife was. And because his wife was, he knew what schizophrenic people did. So he
was bullshitting. All the God told me to do.
Yeah, he made it. He was, but
if he was truly mentally ill, he wouldn't have got away with it for so long.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And being
Right.
so cool, and in his interviews when he was being interviewed those 9 times before.
Yeah, so it's probably sociopathic. On the 5th of July 1975, Sutcliffe's official reign of terror would begin. He attacked Anna Ruggles, the hammer.
Jolski.
Impeccable pronunciation there, Dom. Do you work for the BBC, Dom?
Look, I'm halfway through my 4th pint.
Yeah. How'd you do it without peeing?
I do during Ian's bits.
That's why you take it in tag teams. I always wondered.
So then in October of the same year, he attacked Olive Smelt with a hammer. Both of these women survived the attack. 30th of October 1975, first accredited murder took place when he killed Wilma McCann. And in January 1976, he murdered Emily Jackson. In May of 1975, he attacked Marcella Claxton, died but had a miscarriage as a result. So in 1977, would have been born by then, Sutcliffe murdered Irene Richardson, Patricia Atkinson, and Jean Jordan.
Oh,
Also
you're missing out
attacked.
1976. He stabbed 42-year-old Emily Jackson 52 times.
Oh.
That's quite sad. That Emily Jackson one. Oh, did you mention her?
I mentioned Emily Jackson, but it was.
Yeah,
it
that's
was,
quite sad, that one, isn't it? Because they were absolutely skint. So her husband took her along. Her husband took her along to the thing, didn't he, or something?
Her husband was a roofer, and
and
she used to use the roofing, the van that he used for his roofing. She used to use that, stick a mattress in the back and take punters there.
Yeah.
So he also attacked Marilyn Moore, who survived.
So they were official. Those ones were the ones that he was actually convicted of.
These are official, aren't they? If only he'd murdered Jane McDonald, we wouldn't have that awful fucking singing cow on the telly, would we? He killed the wrong Jane McDonald in 1977.
Okay, go for it.
Right, at 10:30 on the morning of the 10th of October 1977, Dr. Bruce Jones, who would later find fame playing the part of Les Battersby in Coronation Street, was working on his allotment in Manchester when he discovered the gruesome sight of murdered prostitute Jean Jordan. Jordan had been killed by Sutcliffe on the 1st of October, and this is where he dumped the body. He was one of the 13 murdered victims that he was subsequently found guilty of. On the same day, October the 10th, 20-year-old Carol Wilkinson was attacked as she walked down a lonely lane on her way to work just before 9 a.m. in Ravenscliffe, Bradford. Hospital cook Stephen Smith found her lying in a pool of blood. Her clothes had been ripped and she had been battered with 2 heavy stones. She spent 3 days in a coma, after which she died. Initially, the attack had been connected to the Yorkshire Ripper attacks, but was later ruled out as there was no knife used. Why would that? That doesn't make sense, considering he usually used a hammer.
The police didn't make sense in those days, did they? He didn't use. No, that's how they thought, though. It's like, oh, he didn't use a knife. Well, it can't be a Ripper murder. Then that must be a separate one, isn't it? So no, they did. The police did stupid things in those days. Well, they still do anyway. But
they're civil servants, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, especially that North Yorkshire force was fucking garbage, weren't they?
Right, 18 months later, 22-year-old gardener with learning difficulties, Anthony Steele, was convicted of this murder. I think the police have really got it in for retards.
I used to love like, these retards. They must have thought that these retards. They must have thought they were trying to take over the world or something, because they'd always go for a retard every time, wouldn't they?
Is it basically, look, mate, sign this and you can go?
Yeah.
Just straight up lying to them.
Yeah.
Snopes.
So there,
Look, I've checked
someone
it
to
on Snopes.
manipulate.
I've checked it on Snopes, lad. If you sign this, you can go home. Yeah, I think that's what they did. They like keep him in for like 18 hours or something, don't they? Because there was no rules on this stuff back then. The interviews weren't taped, so they could say any old bullshit, make up any old bullshit, keep these kids in for as long as they wanted, and then eventually, when the kids like completely had enough, they'll go, right, don't worry, lad, just sign this and you can go home. It says on there that you didn't do it and you can go home now. That's basically what they did to him, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, it's because they didn't ask for a lawyer, probably.
Yeah.
There was a comedian, Tom Segura, does a bit on this. He'd watched a program called The First 48 Hours. It's where they try and convict people, after a crime's taken place. And he was just saying, ones that didn't ask for a lawyer, they would just end up admitting it, and the ones that did, like the police were like, "Oh, we're fucked." He's asked for a lawyer.
What are we supposed to do now?
Yeah.
What do you want a lawyer for?
Yeah,
Are you guilty or something?
Exactly. In 2003, Steele's conviction for the murder was quashed by the Court of Appeal. Psychologists indicated that he was mentally handicapped and he had been framed for the murder. Steele was awarded £100,000 compensation for spending over 20 years in prison for a crime that he didn't commit. Well, this is basically the third one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Harold Wilkinson's murder remains unsolved, but has the hallmarks of a Ripper attack. So in January 1978, Sutcliffe murdered Yvonne Pearson using a hammer. 10 days later, he killed Helen Whittaker same way. April 1979, Sutcliffe killed Josephine Whittaker. In September that year, he murdered Barbara Leach. In August 1980, Sutcliffe murdered Marguerite Walls and murdered Jacqueline Hall in November of that year. He also attacked 3 other women in 1980 who survived.
Yeah, I don't really trust a lot of these murders. You know when they say there's the murders and then there's like the big gap. I really don't trust that there is a big gap. I think that they've.
Well, that's where these cases come in, isn't it?
Yeah,
so this is the sort of.
Well, it says his first assault was in '69, so he does one assault and then does absolutely nothing for 6 years.
Yeah. A lot of these serial killers do tend to have big gaps.
Yeah, so, but what I'm saying is, do they have big gaps, or is it just
they're probably
found?
Yeah.
But also, it's down to opportunity because also, like, he couldn't drive. Well, he couldn't drive in his early days. Around 69, he couldn't drive yet, so that limits his opportunity. Plus, also, he was doing. He had a job doing night shift work, where it was just night shifts for a period in a factory. Again, if you're doing that kind of job, you're only going to see daylight. So again, your opportunity is limited. Plus, he was also with his girlfriend, spending time with her. So again, if she's working or whatever, then he's alone. He can go and maybe do a crime, but it depends on how much opportunity there is.
Because you know the American serial killer Pee Wee Gaskins. Because Pee Wee Gaskins stopped murdering because he found himself a wife and had a kid, didn't he? And then he started.
And also, when a lorry driver is the perfect job for a serial killer, isn't it? Yeah. Hobbit.
Yes, Hobbit.
You know, but yeah. So where you're away from your family, you're away. You travel around. It's ideal. So
Jeremy Clarkson knows that.
This sort of stereotype of long distance lorry driving, murdering prostitutes because you've got a monthly quota system. Just because there's a monthly quota HGV drivers can do, doesn't mean that all lorry drivers are serial killers.
Just most of them are.
I think they typically murder immigrants mostly by not having any air holes in the back of their trunk.
Got to keep the numbers down somehow.
Oh,
Well,
did
Prissy Patel's
Sutcliffe...
not going to do it, is she?
No. Well, she hasn't got a HGV license.
Anyway, did
Yeah.
Sutcliffe carry out any attacks outside of the UK? Circumstantial evidence suggests that he may have done. 30th of August 1980, in the city of Malmö, southern Sweden, 26-year-old prostitute Teresa Thorling went out to sell her body in order to get money to fuel her own and her boyfriend's heroin habit.
Well, she's not really selling it. She's renting it, isn't she? She takes her body back home with her, don't she?
Well, let's see a photo of her.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
This one, please.
Oh, that's the car. What is that move? I don't know. She's too pretty for him to murder. I don't think she seems
Bad
like
for a skaghead.
Bad for a skaghead.
This is a black and white photo, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to see it
The
without
sex-
makeup? Oof. Proper meth face.
The sex workers reported seeing Teresa around the Exergiston area.
Oh, yeah, I exercise garden. I read that as sort of exercise garden. So exercise garden. So exercise garden.
Exercise garden.
Which was a popular area for women of the night to sell their wares.
Well, there's a lot of horizontal jogging going on there anyway.
One woman saw her walking off with a client, whilst another saw her talking to a man in a car, but no one remembered seeing her later that night. 2 days later, on Monday afternoon, an old man collecting bottles for cash stumbled across Teresa's body in the stairwell of a derelict building that was scheduled for demolition. She had been covered by
how
a
long was he
carpet.
considering in selling it to the local college for research?
What?
I said, I wonder if he was considering selling her body to the local college for the research, you know, like Burke and Hare job.
Yeah, well, I mean,
got a few quid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. She had been covered by a carpet, her clothing had been removed, and a square-cut stick of wood had been forced into her rectum.
Ooh.
Bloody hell.
This mortem showed that Teresa had been killed on the Saturday by strangulation. Doctors noted a high level of narcotics in her blood. Before being killed, she had been hit on the back of the head with a blunt object. This sort of crime was very rare in Sweden, and it was linked to another that had taken place in Gothenburg a few weeks earlier on the 12th of August.
The stick in the arse though, I think it's too much of a deviation from his regular MO, don't you?
Well, he did try. We'll look at the circumstantial evidence coming up, but you know he did deviate occasionally with the one. I think with the one that was the one that was found by Les Battersby. I think he tried to cut her head off, which wasn't his usual method. But he thought, if I try and cut the head off, then they'll think there's someone else.
He has more time. He does more mutilation. I don't think he like.
No, I think he did actually say though that there was one which he tried to cut her head off in order to, you know, make the police think that someone else had did it, because that's not what he normally does. So, but yeah, carry on, Dominic.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your argument, Hemi, but I mean, it's difficult because you're trying to apply logic to serial killers' behaviour.
Serial killers are kind of creatures of habit, though, aren't they? That's they are pretty much set in their way. I'm not saying they're 100% never ever deviate at all, but there's like certain things that they do, and I think there's certain things they also don't.
They have an MO, but they evolve, and sometimes like I said earlier, like the Ramirez case, their MO doesn't seem to follow, from the home invasion thing, it doesn't seem to follow a pattern always.
Well, he did it because he thought there was something wrong with his blood and it was drying out in his veins, and the only way he could get more, he thought his blood was turning to powder in his veins, and the only way he could sort it out was by drinking blood. That was Ramirez's thing, wasn't it? But like, I
Yeah.
think the stick in the arse is like a big like step up, and I think if he started doing that, he would have carried on incorporating it in. That's just my thinking anyway.
Yeah. Well, Hobbit's a lorry driver. What do you do? Do you vary your MO, Hobbit? You always
depends on if the vehicle's got rear wheel steering or not. In which
Yeah.
case, you can just blame it as an accident because, sorry, mate, not familiar with it.
Yeah.
But usually, it's the Class 1 drive. The Class 1 drivers are the best killers because
Yeah.
they're the ones that are doing the long distance stuff up and down Europe, and that's where you can go to Romania, pick up a Romanian bin. And then when she goes, pay me money, you'd be like, yeah, sorry, I don't speak prostitute. And that's when you put her over the under the wheels.
Yeah.
I want to know, actually, Hobbit, is when you're driving up the A1 in a lorry, and why are you overtaking at 1 mile an hour past the other lorry on the left lane?
Yeah, what's that about?
Fun story, because in the A1, you're only allowed to overtake at 1 mile above the speed limit. But the other one is because it's a quarter of the fun of driving on the A1111, which is a much funner road. It's 4 times as fun as the A1, in fact. But
why do you do that though? Why do you do that on motorways? Though why do they do that on motorways anyway? Why do lorries overtake each other like in that way? It doesn't cause, it doesn't upset me or anything. But I just noticed that they.
Put it this way: if I was driving a lorry and I can see someone's trying to overtake me, like on the dual carriageway or something, and I'm speed limited to, I think it's 62 miles an hour. Hang on, let me think about this.
56.
I think it's the speed limit's 90 kilometers an hour, which might be. I can't remember if that's 62 or 65 or something. But
you've failed. Give me your license back, Hobbit.
Some lorries drive slower than that because they got like Asda, for example, they drive at 62. So, but in my case,
do they not do that anymore? 56 used to be the speed limit, didn't it?
That doesn't answer the question though. Why did lorries keep overtaking each other like that?
Because they're bored and they find it fun. I mean,
really.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like if they can see like they're gaining on the lorry, it's just like, well, I'm not letting my foot off. The speed limiter is making me go faster than your vehicle, so they'll overtake, and as long as it takes them to overtake, they'll do it. In my case, I just let the foot off the gas so that they can get in.
But if you're bored, why don't you just go and murder a prostitute?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's when the taco breaks you, because before it was a bit more lax, but now you just like, oh, I've done my 4.5 hours of driving. I've got to pull off and murder a prosy.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, well, let's go back to this murder in Sweden. And so the second murder in Sweden, like Teresa, 31-year-old Gertie Jensen, also a drug user and part-time sex worker. And like Teresa, she'd been found dead on a demolition site with her head smashed in from behind with a brick. At the time of these murders in Sweden, Sutcliffe was working as a long-distance lorry driver, a profession that gave him ample opportunities to carry out his murderous lifestyle. Some of his journeys took him overseas, and records show that he was on the passenger list.
Are you saying murdering isn't a disease, it's a lifestyle? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? His murderous lifestyle.
Lorry driver.
Yeah.
It's my lifestyle choice, and you should respect it.
You tour the world. I mean, back in the 70s, they're going all the way as far as India to murder, but now they're over here. They don't have to travel so far to, to state their ethnic killing spree.
Carry on, Dom.
Some of his journeys took him overseas. Blah blah blah. Some of it was on the passenger list that places him on board the ferry between Malmö, Sweden, and Grangård, Denmark, the days before and after these two murders.
You considered a job at the BBC without excellent pronunciation.
I'm not that bad.
To World Service. This.
Look Look up world's worst newsreader. He's much worse than me, and I think it's some comedian from Africa trying to read out football results.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Then there was another one from Africa, where this African guy talks to a female gay rights activist, and
Why are
he's
you
just,
gay?
why are you gay?
Why are you gay?
Why are
Just
you
stop
gay?
being gay. We know this one, Tom.
You
We
must not
are
be gay.
familiar with this clip. Why are you gay? Just stop being gay.
Anyway, so the circumstances put Sutcliffe in the frame, but there was no investigation and no one charged him.
That's interesting, though, isn't it? The fact that he was on the ferry, so he was definitely in the area at the time, in Sweden, of all places, when that happened. So those murders, particularly, are no doubt.
Do you believe the kind of theory of, like, you know, overseas murders, like the one that Jack the Ripper was an American, and he was the guy that had the torture house in America?
Oh yeah,
Well,
H.H. Holmes. Yeah.
The thing is, we don't really know anything about Jack the Ripper, though, do we? Because it was never solved. Whereas this, we know who it was. So,
You know who's got great tits? Jack the Stripper.
well done. I can't. I've been trying to think of some as well, but I can't. Trying to think of a Ipper word with.
Oh, what about the guy that murdered all the puppies? Jack the Yipper.
Desperate. Anyway, okay then.
The
So
man who
that's
killed
the-
so
that-
many, he put them in the back of his big truck, and he had to dump them in a quarry. Jack the Tipper.
Jamaica.
Alaska.
Fuckerada.
Jamaican. You're making me crazy.
All right. Anyway, okay. What we'll do, we'll tie this up. Then I'll just we'll just conclude this. So I'll just so yeah, we've looked at those cases. You know, yeah, some of them.
I think you're just slandering the good name of Peter Sutcliffe in this episode.
But you know, on a serious note, some of them could have been probably weren't carried out by him. Others definitely were, but we'll never know. He's, you know, so let's just tie this up now anyway.
So what was he like at? What was he like at confessing? I mean, was he a guy that was proud of his work and he didn't mind confessing?
Well,
because some of them, once you get him in there, they'll sing like a canary and tell you everything. They're like chunk.
He did, but then he sort of tried to make out he was a nutter, wasn't he? So to get his, you know, if you are actually mad, then if you are properly mental, then you're not as responsible for your murders as if you know. But yeah, that's what he tried, but it didn't really work. But we can come on to that. But
I think the ones that confess are psychopathic. That they believe what they're doing is right, and they're very self-centered and.
Well, they want the notoriety for it, don't they?
Basically, whereas sociopathic people, they don't care whether they're right or not. Basically,
yeah. Well, you get the ones that kind of enjoy holding back, don't you? Like the. I mean, what do you think to like Brady and Thingy? Do you think they enjoyed holding back the evidence, or do you think they did try to help? I think Brady might have had some genuine remorse, but I don't
they both. Hindley came forward in the 80s with just to try and get out of prison, but it didn't work. So and she died in prison. So tough shit in it.
She was definitely controlling him. You can see that.
Well, I think it was the other way with Brady and Hindley. I think Brady was the leader. She was just.
Oh no! When we went over it, you remember the Brady and Hindley, don't you, Hobbit? He was a puppet. I don't know if quite puppets. Yeah. She was definitely the. I mean, all that bullshit about her sitting in. Oh, so I used to sit in the van. I didn't like doing the murders. I think
she was convicted. That's what she was convicted of, though. She was convicted,
if not the driver.
She was convicted as being, an accomplice to murder rather than actually carrying it out.
No, if you really read it and look into it, you can see that she was the driver, if not because she used to come out with this bull. Oh, I was always sitting in the other room, like pretending she was sat in the room during all the murders, but it's not. I don't believe she's just as bad as him, if not worse. Well, you can tell she's a wrong 'un because as soon as she got into prison, she lodged an appeal as soon as she got into prison. Didn't even let the dust settle.
And was lesing it up with everyone.
Yeah.
Were they fucking each other?
Oh.
Hindley and Brady.
Yeah, I think they were. I think she used.
They were a couple.
Used sex, didn't
she? Yeah. She was using her minge to drive his murders.
Yeah, well, you can see throughout her prison years how manipulative she was. I'm not saying Brady's innocent by any means because he participated in it. He's just as bad as she is, but I think she seemed to be the senior partner in the. It wasn't until they got together. Brady wasn't doing anything on his own until they got together, was he? And nor was she.
He had the ideas though, and he had killed animals, but
yeah.
I mean, it's just
obviously it's difficult.
Two personalities like that get together and they just kind of feed off each other. And
the thing is, though, he couldn't. You have to get a child. You have to abduct a child to do the murder, and he couldn't do that alone. He needed a woman with him.
Yeah,
a child will go with a woman, and that's how. Yeah, and he would follow on the motor. So she would get the child into the car, and he'd follow on his motorbike. So or something like that anyway. But they're both dead.
And they were definitely they were like Fred and Rose, weren't they? Like you couldn't tell which one.
But anyway, let's go back and let's just tie up this case anyway. So, on the 2nd of January 1981, Sutcliffe was stopped by police when he was with 24-year-old prostitute Olivia Reevers in the driveway of Light Trade's house in Melbourne Avenue, Brumhill, Sheffield. Check was carried out on Sutcliffe's car and it was revealed that he had false number plates. He was arrested and taken to Dewsbury Police Station in West Yorkshire. His intention had been to kill the prostitute, but the police had no idea who they had in custody after their initial arrest. Before being taken to the police station, Sutcliffe had asked if he could have a piss, and the police let him go to a nearby water tank to have a slash. It was then that Sutcliffe discarded a knife, hammer, and rope that he had on his person. He hid a second knife in the toilet system at the police station upon his arrival. Police had their suspicions about Sutcliffe, and his appearance matched many of the physical descriptions of the Yorkshire Ripper. He was questioned extensively about the murders and was kept at the police station overnight. The following morning, the site of Sutcliffe's arrest at Melbourne Avenue, Sheffield, was searched, and the murder weapons that he had dumped there the night before were found. The game was up, and Sutcliffe admitted that he was the Yorkshire Ripper. So there you go. That's how he was caught. After all those hours of police investigation and all that money spent, he was just caught, by a general check. And also, that was when it was found that he was wearing his own design of sort of undergarment, which was a sweater worn on his legs with a V-neck, exposing himself so that he could pleasure himself whilst carrying out his deeds. So obviously there was a sexual element in his killings. Sutcliffe was sentenced to 20 life sentences in prison for the murders of 13 women and attempted murder of 7 others. He began his sentence at HM Prison Parkhurst on the 22nd of May 1981. He was transferred to Broadmoor Hospital for Nutters in March 1984, where he spent the most of the rest of his life. He was transferred from Broadmoor to HMP Frankland in Durham in August 2016. Excuse me. On the 10th of January 1983, whilst in Parkhurst, 35-year-old career criminal James Costello, who had several convictions for violence, followed Sutcliffe into the recess of the prison wing. He then confronted Sutcliffe and plunged a broken coffee jar into the left side of his face, creating wounds that required 30 stitches. So if you go to the next picture there, Hemi, we can actually see the damage that was done to Sutcliffe, which will be good.
No, he did a good job, didn't he? Nearly took his eye, didn't he?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
He looks like Sloth. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys.
It's not bad. It's not a bad effort. Considering you're not allowed, you have to improvise your weapons in prison. That's quite good. So, on the 23rd of February 1996, Sutcliffe was attacked by fellow Broadmoor patient Paul Wilson, who tried to strangle him with a cable from a pair of stereo headphones. On the 10th of March 1997, Sutcliffe was attacked by fellow Broadmoor patient Ian Kay. He stabbed Sutcliffe in the eye with a pen, causing the loss of vision in his left eye, and his right eye was severely damaged. On the 22nd of February 2007, Sutcliffe was attacked by fellow Broadmoor patient Patrick Sarida, who lunged at him with a cutlery knife while shouting, "You fucking raping, murdering bastard, I'll blind you in your other fucking one." Sutcliffe flung himself backwards and the blade missed his eye, stabbing him in the cheek. So that was unlucky. So, but that's good though, isn't it? The fact that he's had these attacks over the years. So that's something anyway.
I found. Did you know he had a handwritten sign in his lorry, and it said, "In this truck is a man whose latent genius, if unleashed, would rock the nation, whose dynamic energy would overpower those around him. Better let him sleep."
Thing is, in probably another version of this simulation we're in, he could be our Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, certainly.
Anyway, so on the 13th of November 2020, Sutcliffe died, aged 74. He had been suffering from diabetes and heart problems for many years, but it was a bout of COVID-19 that finished him off. So there we go. That's
COVID, not all bad.
That's the end. There we go. So yeah, exactly.
Was it
so
just from COVID?
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's probably the diabetes, all the sugar the prostitutes were giving him.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, then what we'll do, we'll just finish off with a few pictures now. So just go to the next illustration there, please, Hemi.
Yeah.
So these are the photo fits that there. So these are the various photo fits from witnesses during the investigation. The bottom right-hand corner there, those two photos are actually Sutcliffe himself, but we can see the various likenesses.
That's Rolf Harris on the right-hand side, isn't it?
Yeah, he was probably involved.
Beard.
Yeah.
Looks like a character creation screen.
Yeah, so...
Is it?
But there's a few...
Weren't there rumours that Sutcliffe knew Jimmy Savile before the murders or during the
Well, we'll get onto that, won't we?
Yeah,
so go on to the So go on to the next picture. We'll have a closer look at some of the photo fits.
Fucking hell, Jimmy Hurt's up there, isn't it?
So there's Sutcliffe on the right.
I'd love to know that
photo.
one second one down on the left. I'd love to know if that man actually exists with a head like that.
Well, that one there. Why the long face?
Yeah.
I got to admit though, the bottom one, that's not exactly that. Those two there, that's not a very good. Whoever put this together, those two don't really look that similar. But yeah, so.
Yeah, and I remember you saying that to me. There's a girl sat opposite us with a very long face.
She had a long face.
Yeah.
Why the long face? I do like that joke, but anyway. Well, so there you go. There's some of the photo fits, so you can see. Yeah, they do look like Sutcliffe. Let's go to the next picture. Well, let's look at a picture of Sutcliffe in his in his graveyard. This is actually there he is. So he's
Is that
right at his
Fred
beard.
Westie's on that fucking tipper with?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
No,
That's
it looks
Sutcliffe
like
in the
he's
white.
on a tipper truck with fucking Fred West.
That's him in his.
He looks like he's having a very a relationship with someone, and he has
Is
a
that
ghostly
Photoshop?
arm.
The colours are very weird in the middle, aren't they?
Mm.
It's got to be a Photoshop, isn't it?
He's having a reach around there, but yeah. So there he is without his
Sit on
beard
my
in his
knee, talk
younger
about the
days.
first thing that comes up.
Hard at work. So if we go to the next picture, we can see during Sutcliffe's trial, he tried to justify his crimes by saying that he heard voices coming from a grave in Bingley Cemetery telling him to kill prostitutes, and that is the actual grave there. Obviously, it's a Polish name, so it's the grave of Bronislaw Zabolski. So
That's Polish for Brony fan, My Little Pony.
yeah. So if you're ever
Are
in the
they
area,
voices or are they interdimensional elves?
nah, he just made it up, didn't he? So if you just get time in the loony bin instead of prison. So which is where he ended up anyway. So but he was never released. So. Just go to the next picture. Let's have a quick look at the next picture. What we got there?
You should be. You want to find the one from what's that crap? Two Swords, like Louis Two
Yeah,
Swords.
that's
Is
the
it
one. That's what.
Is that from Louis Two Swords? Is it?
Yeah. So this is
Why is
in
he standing in a cow?
the Waxwork Museum in Great Yarmouth, where there is actually a waxwork of Sutcliffe. So you can take a family, your young, take a family day out to the Wax Museum. Yeah.
I mean, what's the context of it, though? I mean,
Well, it's
in Madame
Well,
Tussauds, they have
apparently when his
dungeon
sister lived in Blackpool, he was a huge fan of the Louis Two Swords up there, and he used to go around the syphilis exhibits. He was a big fan of.
Yeah, and I think the Chamber of Horrors had some sort of like ghoulish,
Yeah, I think
some
that was
ghoulish
like a
displays.
syphilis. That was like a really grim syphilis thing that he was absolutely fascinated with.
So, and he was, when he was a gravedigger, he would open the graves and mess around with the dead bodies. It was he was kind of immune to that sort of thing. All right then, let's go to the next picture, which is the best picture, I think. The most
look
fucked
at
up
that!
picture.
Oh, who's that man in the middle there?
And
Nice
there
bit,
we
nice
go.
bit of moob, nice bit of moob going on there. Is he transition? He's looking very busty in that photo, isn't he?
Yeah, he's put on weight, but so in 1991, Jimmy Somerville introduced Peter Sutcliffe to Frank Bruno. Bruno was opening a new gym at Broadmoor Hospital when he met the Ripper. Bruno has since said that he did not know who it was at the time, and Savile had set him up and was having some kind of sick joke.
Do you remember when all the Savile stuff came out and the Ripper fucking disavowed him? Do you remember that? He got Jimmy Savile got disavowed by the Yorkshire Ripper. That was hilarious.
One of the murders did take. One of the murder victims was discovered just behind his flat in Leeds, and he was actually interviewed about this. But so were a lot of men at the time, and obviously.
I remember everyone was shocked by Savile revelations after his death. So when I was like 7 years old watching him on Jim Will Fix It, I knew he was a fucking pedo.
Hiding in plain sight, I think they call that.
I just thought it was. I just always thought he was shit, and his programs was, Jim Will Fix It was shit, and I never used to watch.
God, it's Jimmy Savile, didn't you? Whenever he was on.
Well, I just thought this is shit. This is shit. So I'm not going to watch it. So I didn't really. It was sort of irrelevant. So, but yeah, that's a pretty messed up picture, isn't it? And how, but Savile used to do voluntary work in hospitals and stuff, and Broadmoor was one of his hospitals that he used to do that, and he got to know the Ripper. So I don't think he was involved in the crime or anything, but obviously due to his macabre nature, he probably did get on quite well with the Ripper and was fascinated with what he had done. So
Yeah.
there we go. Let's
yeah,
go to.
He's a wrong one, isn't
Let's just go on to the next picture and just see. This is one of the last pictures that was taken of Sutcliffe when he was released. Well, not released, but he was taken to hospital for something. And the sun.
and
I'll tell you what is
black
quite
guy in the
funny.
background.
If you
That's Frank
Google
Bruno.
Sutcliffe arguments inside, it comes up with Ed Sheeran. So it puts Ed Sheeran in the same bracket as the Ripper.
So
Well, I mean,
yeah,
he has done Sheeran to humanity. His music.
but yeah. So there we go. So it's
Look,
like
that black guy in the background. That's evidence of simulation theory.
That's is that what's his name again?
He does look a bit like George R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
He does quite.
Oh, there we
like,
go.
actually,
But
doesn't he?
I think it's a good case, though. Even the general Ripper case is good, and I think then also it's a period of time as well, and the location, late 70s, early 80s in the UK. A gloomy time of social unrest, unemployment, the early days of Thatcher in the
We
north
roll
of
that ahead
England.
of us again.
But as we were
Oh.
saying before, you're not going to get like that. That's the heyday of serial killers, isn't it? You're not going to get another
Well,
real big
it
number.
was.
So, yeah.
It was grim up north, and the Ripper being on the loose just sort of was the
Wasn't it
cherry on the
this?
cake.
Yeah.
Was the cherry? I thought it was better up there now. I don't know. I've not been up there, but
No, that's
so no, it's
just a
still
cope.
is it? Well, at least they haven't got
I think-
the Ripper on the loose anyway.
I think
But they
serial
have got
killers.
Purple Aki
Yeah,
and the Manchester Canal Pusher, so they got rid of one, and now they got two.
Well, the Canal Pusher, they
But,
just deny all about that, aren't they?
yeah.
Canal Pusher.
But the people at home know if you like this this case though on ITV Player, there is if you didn't see it at the time, you have got the Yorkshire Ripper, the Secret Murders 2-part serial, which was shown last month, which I recommend. So have a look at that, and there you go. That's
And the Canal Pusher that
mm,
it reminds me of. No, I said Ivan Dobsky from Monkey Dust.
yes.
Rival was the Canal Street Killer. From which reminds me of the Canal Pusher.
Well, there's
But it
actually
had his back-
one guy that. Oh, sorry, Dom. Carry on.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that Canal Street Killer's backstory was showed his backstory, and it was said to his dad, "Oh, Dad, can I play outside?" And his dad said, "Ah." That was his backstory. Yeah, I just think people should do more check out Monkey Dust. Amazing series. It's on
Excellent.
BBC Three.
We'll keep an eye open for that then.
Yeah. I can't remember what I was going to say now. Yeah, the Canal Pusher. There was one guy that survived the Canal Pusher, wasn't there? He had some bloke literally maniacally boot him into the canal, and the bloke ran. The bloke was trying to crawl out, and the bloke ran in for another go, but the bloke managed to pull himself out. But this guy was an absolute loon, apparently. Real strange.
And yeah, there was something about the police weren't acknowledging he exists.
Yeah, they're desperate. They're not even. They're saying it's just a conspiracy theory, aren't they?
So why not just? I'd go near a canal and wearing loads of webbing and stuff, and hide in the bushes and have a big sledgehammer. Just wait for him.
How about this one then? So just having a look at some other stuff. Yeah, behind bars, Sutcliffe couldn't keep up with all the fan mail and love letters he'd get daily from besotted female fans, desperate to capture his attention. His conviction and confinement prevented his physical access to more victims, but enabled a sick stream of correspondence with women who chose to actively communicate with him. But these women are weird.
Yes, there are, and there is a documentary on that. I think it is on YouTube where it's some of those women are on there, just telling you about this. They write to him, meet him, and go.
Damien says, "Don't we know the Canal Pusher?"
No, we don't. For legal reasons, we can't name the Canal Pusher, can we, Hobbit?
Any allegations that we do or do not know someone that pushes in canals can either be confirmed or denied.
So, right, are we done, boys and girls?
I think we're done.
Right, so stay spooky, people.
What? No unsolved pit? Oh God, we've gone into extra time. Yeah.
Well, we
no
can
time
do.
for
Overrun.
unsolved
Do you
mysteries.
do you desperately want to do some unexplained mysteries, Hobbit?
I saw a Fortean story about a Brazilian woman had to be hospitalized because she was too embarrassed to fart in front of her boyfriend.
Oh yeah, what happened?
She had to go to hospital because she wouldn't trump.
Oh no, a bit like that other woman.
Oh
Holding
God,
in,
yeah.
Oh
holding in
shit! Oh, there's
farts
one right up
also
your street
causes
here.
cancer.
There's one right up your street here on unexplained mysteries. UK government once wanted to use dolphins to hunt Nessie.
Oh yeah. Well,
According
that's
to
better than-
reports, Margaret Thatcher's government once planned to use trained dolphins to hunt the Loch Ness monster. What do you think of this one then, Ian?
Yeah, it would work, I suppose.
Yeah. The bizarre claim comes courtesy of resurfaced reports based on declassified documents first brought to light some 20 years ago. According to the file, shortly after Thatcher had become Prime Minister in 1979, the government ministers had been involved in a secretive plan to borrow trained bottlenose dolphins from the United States, fit them with high-tech equipment, then release them into the waters of the iconic Scottish Loch in a bid to solve the Loch Ness Monster mystery once and for all.
It would
Never
work.
had Thatcher down as a cryptozoologist.
No, well, there you go then. Oh, are you having one about the haunted...
Dolphins swimming in a line. If you see dolphins swimming in a line, that would sometimes give rise to sea serpent sightings as one creature.
Oh,
So-
because they do that synchronized bobbing up and down, don't they?
Yeah.
And to all you vegans out there, dolphins are gangsters and rapists.
They'll even bum a seal.
You know this.
And they have been known to fuck each other in the blowhole as well.
Yeah.
And try to get themselves off on people.
And you know what they
Yeah.
do for fun, don't you? They get manatee pups and spear them, flick them to each other and spear them on their snouts.
That's swordfish, isn't it?
No, it's bottlenose dolphins. Apparently,
Right.
They're like apparently they can be quite cruel for fun.
Yeah.
Do you know this one, Ian? The haunted BBC Micro, the couple from Wales.
It rings a
that
bell.
story.
Yes.
Ken
We've not
Webster and
done-
Debbie Oakes.
We
on.
covered that one.
Didn't I talk? No, there was a big. There's like a couple of stories about it, and I watched. I was really fascinated, but he was getting the stories from the past and the future, and they turned out the house is on the ley line. So it's like, yeah, the guy, the guy in the past has actually done it, and there was like he was done for witchcraft, and so yeah, no, it's a great story. Really is
Well,
good.
apparently now, even stranger still, Ken has also claimed the couple have been receiving messages from another individual. This time, someone claiming to be from the year 2109.
Yeah, that one I think they give themselves a number like the 100 or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
what? Are
Council
they still using the
it's
same
Council
computer?
of 9, isn't it? You're thinking of it?
Are they still
I-
using
I
the
don't-
same BBC?
Yes, I think so,
Probably
yeah.
not.
I think they
Getting
are.
it on their iPad now.
But it was
Yeah.
very interesting because there was like two people from the Psychical Society who came to investigate, said, no, it's a load of bollocks. Then the couple contacted the Psychical Society and said, well, there's investigators who sent over. Can we read their reports? And then the Psychical Society says, we've got no record of either of those individuals. We've never encountered them. So just two complete mysterious strangers, literal men in black, came to investigate this time traveling messages.
Strange.
It is very strange, and
We
I'm
can
not
go
sure if it-
into more. We can try and go and cover it more in depth at some point because it
I
is a
don't
good
think-
case.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't cover it in Fortean Words, but I did post it in the chat because I said, well, look, if you're interested in anything Fortean,
Yeah.
watch these videos. And I did that last year because I was really fascinated with the whole thing. It ties into one of the first episodes I did on this about electronic voice phenomena.
Yeah.
Where does the word Fortean come from, by the way?
Charles Fort.
Charles Fort.
Oh, okay. All right.
Book of the Damned. Book of the Damned's really interesting, actually. We need to do some more readings from that, don't we, Hobbit? Oh, Pentagon's UFO files include encounter with a werewolf. Have you seen that video of the birds crashing into the ground where they just drop out of the sky in Mexico?
Is that near a farm?
No, it's no, I don't think so. It's in Mexico, isn't it? I don't know. Ooh, God. How about this one for you arachnophobes out there? Pack hunting spiders detect vibrations and swarm their prey. So there's the Anelosimus eximius, a South American species that can be found in colonies of up to 1,000 individuals, which work collectively to build huge webs measuring several meters across. In a recent study, scientists closely examined the behavior of these spiders and found they were to coordinate their attacks. So when a large animal strayed into their web, they were able to work effectively together to take it down. The colony has no designated leader, with each spider instead coordinates its attack, with the others using the vibrations in the web to choreograph a synchronized swarming process. Oh, grim.
Strange.
Ugh.
Spiders are fucked up. Like I've seen a golden orb spider in Australia. These huge webs and then these huge spiders. The male is like the size of a mite.
God. I'm not sure about that.
And they have redbacks, but they're not as big, isn't it? Redbacks.
Redbacks, yeah. You have to check under the toilet seat.
No, I picked up a rock, and when I was there, and there was a red. I almost put my hand on it. It was just
Oh,
a red.
God.
There was a redback in the other. Yeah.
Oh, God. Mummified shark amongst horrors found at abandoned aquarium. Two urban explorers recently delved into the decrepit remains of a disused aquarium somewhere in Spain. The pair, a French woman known as Judge Urbex, and an unknown male, ventured into the old abandoned building to record footage for an urban exploration video on YouTube. What they found there since has generated a great deal of interest online. So they haven't. It's unclear where it is. All of the aquarium's living specimens were most likely moved to another location when it shut down. The mummified remains have endured due to the fact they were preserved beforehand, they're saying. They're saying it was a preserved shark.
Peculiar.
Weird.
Baby preserved shark. Do.
Oh, apparently there's a new documentary to unravel the mysteries of the Heaven's Gate cult. They were the trainer people, weren't they?
Now, is it Heaven's Gate or there was another one that is it Hale Bop and stuff?
I think they're the ones. Are they the eunuch ones with the trainers? Because they all wear the same trainers, don't they?
They were celebrating the return of Hale Bop because Boards of Canada did songs about Dave Koresh.
No, this is Bonnie Nettles and Marshall Applewhite.
Dave Koresh was something else.
That David Koresh is Waco.
Yeah.
Right, so are we done, people?
I'd say so.
Yeah. Right. Night all. Stay